Cole, I was in Atlanta on Sunday, well rested, sober as could be, perched high atop the venue there at Mercedes-Benz Dome for the Aflac kickoff game. I watched what happened for South Carolina against Virginia Tech. I watched them walk right down the field and score easy on that first drive. And then I watched them do absolutely nothing until the fourth quarter when Lenore Sellers, offensively, by the way, I'm not talking about special teams. We'll get into that. Lenore Sellers hits Nick Harbor for a 64-yard touchdown bomb. So why are South Carolina Gamecock fans all over the Fan Upstate's Facebook page coming after me for saying that was an ugly win? Did you not watch the same game that I watched? Had you maybe had a couple of too many beers? By the way, Advil, water, maybe Gatorade. That'll help you out. Help you get over that inevitable hangover after you're just angry about what? When I said it's an ugly win. It was an ugly win. South Carolina Gamecock fans, an ugly win still counts as a win in the win column, and that's all that matters. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. And you Tolos, you 25 Tolos who in less than a minute have already jumped on the stream, we appreciate you. Welcome into the show. The floor is yours, Cole.
No, they are a sensitive fan base, Diesel. South Carolina Gamecock fans are a sensitive fan base. I'll say that first and foremost. But why are they upset with you? I believe South Carolina fans who commented on the post on Facebook may be upset because at the end of the day, South Carolina Gamecock football, Diesel, it doesn't matter if they beat the Citadel or if they beat North Korea or if they beat Alabama or the New England Patriots. South Carolina fans are passionate about winning, and when they do, they're happy about it. They're proud of it. It doesn't matter who they beat. They're proud of winning. And when you, Diesel, comment them on Facebook and say it was an ugly win, it upsets them a little bit because they don't want to be classified as a team that has an ugly win. That's just the bottom line.
To your point, beating Alabama ain't all it used to be.
Yes, true.
We saw what happened in Tallahassee on Saturday at 3:30. Yeah. That was an ugly game. Oh man, play the world's smallest violin for the death of the Alabama dynasty. How about that? But look, you got the win. On the scoreboard, it looks good. What was the final on that one? I'm blanking off the top of my head what the final was.
24-11.
24-11. It looks like you scored a couple of touchdowns offensively, kicked a field goal, held them down defensively. Looks like a pretty good win.
Yeah.
So like just slow down a little bit. Relax a little bit. Take those little spurs on the back of your neck, those hairs that are on the back of your neck. Let them lay back down flat and realize that it was an ugly win. But that doesn't matter. There's no special category. There's no asterisk for ugly wins. You got the win. Enjoy it. Lenore Sellers looked like himself for parts of that game. Nick Harbor looked awesome for parts of that game. Even had a special teams stop. Way to go. I when I was looking over the box score, Cole, I was like, wait a minute. Nick Harbor's got a tackle? How did that happen? Secondary, awful. Awful in that game. That's not to say that they are awful football players, and that's not to say that they're going to be awful all season long. But they were awful in that game. They let Kyron Drones, a guy that could not get the ball off the turf, who could not throw accurately to a receiver, put up, at least by my count, 3 plays of 28 yards or more in that game. That's an awful secondary. It just simply wasn't good for a guy that was as inaccurate as he was to torch you like that a couple of times.
So here's the reality of it. Here's the way you have to look at it. Do I 100% agree that a win's a win? Yes, a win is 100% a win. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or a million. A win's a win. South Carolina fans should take it every day of the week, right? Every day of the week and even on Sundays. Now, here's where you have to be objective. Do I think you're maybe being a little too hard on the Gamecocks? Maybe a little bit. But to be fair, here's where I go. I look at the score. 24-11 was the final score of the football game, right? Diesel, South Carolina played Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
SEC, ACC. We all know that South Carolina is a much more talented roster.
Right, a team, a roster that lost a bunch but was still right there on the edge of making the playoff, and you're hyped up about beating Virginia Tech.
So
a team that has struggled to get to bowl eligibility for the last decade.
Here's where I go. South Carolina scored 24 points in that football game. One of them was special teams, and then you take 3 points for the field goal, right?
Yep.
South Carolina scored 14 points on Virginia Tech. So the way I look at it is I ask South Carolina fans out there at 844-326-3663, objectively, a win's a win. There's no doubt you'll take it any way you can get it. But my question, Diesel, to South Carolina fans is, are you happy scoring 14 points on Virginia Tech? That's where I am.
Yeah.
We all know that. Look, the comments, we already see them. We all know a win's a win. We get that. We're sports fans. We know that. But if you want to get to where you want to be, if you want to get to a college football playoff, do you believe that scoring 14 on Virginia Tech is good enough to be a college football playoff team? That's just the most simple way I can put it. Now, defensively, I thought South Carolina, Diesel, at times, to your point about their secondary, I thought at times they gave up some big plays, some plays they wish they could have back, right? However, holding Virginia Tech to 11 with Kyron Drones being as elusive as a quarterback as he is, I think 11 points is impressive from the Gamecock defense. I just don't think ultimately, when you look at the entirety of the game, I don't think ultimately South Carolina played anywhere near their potentials, the way I look at it.
No, there was one big bright spot. It's the fact that they looked a lot better in the fourth quarter and especially in the second half as a whole. You got to feel really good about how this team grew up in the second half of that game. Again, I said they played awful in that game, and they did. In the first half, they got absolutely waxed by Kyron Drones. Now, they couldn't put it in the end zone. If Virginia Tech could have capitalized on some of those big-time plays, we might be sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon talking about a South Carolina loss, okay? Like you're a competent quarterback and receivers who can actually catch the ball away from being 0-1, just like Clemson is. So, I mean, enjoy the fact that you got the win, but the secondary was terrible in the first half. They got better in the second half. That's what you expect. You expect halftime adjustments. You expect a coach like Clayton White and Shane Beamer to be able to fix the problems that plagued them in the first half. And they did a fantastic job of that. They did a great job of that. Virginia Tech had opportunities to go down and score and make this thing interesting, but they just couldn't do it. And they had to settle for field goals all day. You get a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. So here's the feedback right now, 8 minutes into the show. Half of the people, especially on the stream, are saying we're talking too much bleep about South Carolina. The other half are on the text line saying, for example, let me read this text from the 203. They were torching our secondary. The offensive line didn't look good. The DA guy who got the pick and didn't lay down in the end zone screwed us. So to the texter's point from the 203, here's what we have here. We have one texter, specifically Diesel from the 203, that agrees with what you said. It's going against everything that Giants fan, anybody else on the stream who's upset with us right now is saying. It's two different beliefs. We all know in the grand scheme of things, I think you on the stream, I think y'all are missing the point. In the grand scheme of things, a win's a win. But even the 203 on the text line is recognizing the secondary wasn't great. The offensive line wasn't great. And then, yes, Fred caught the interception and ran out of the end zone 2 yards, and that cost South Carolina in a huge way. Here's the bottom line. You can be a South Carolina fan today, Diesel, on this Tuesday, and be happy that your team won, celebrate the win, and you can also in the same breath say, you know what, while we won, we weren't anywhere close to where we need to be. That's possible.
It's called being an objective human being. It's about being able to recognize reality. Now, I know some fans, and I'm not singling out Gamecock fans. This is all fans and in every sport all over the world and maybe all over the universe if there's life out there and they have sports. I don't know. Not everything goes to plan. Not everything about your performance is perfect. Unless you blow a team out 72-0, there's probably some problems in what happened. It's okay to admit it. It doesn't make you less of a fan. It doesn't mean Shane Beamer's going to be listening to this radio station, monitoring our text line, and calling up the ticketing office and saying, hey, hey, take that guy's tickets away. He's not a good enough fan. Like, it's okay to like look outside of that bubble and realize that it's not all perfectly garnet out there in the world. You had some deficiencies, but it seems like you fixed one of them by the end of the game. Now, the offensive line has got to get a heck of a lot better because, by God, they're going to get Lenore Sellers killed if they keep letting guys rush right up the middle, unblocked, and hit them.
But
that's bad.
Ultimately, Diesel, here's the beauty of it. The beauty of what South Carolina, the discussion we're having right now, you know what the beauty of it is? The great thing today, if you're a Gamecock fan, is that you didn't play your best and you still won. You played Virginia Tech, not a great opponent. You still won the game. Mm-hmm. You could be Clemson, where you didn't play your best against a really good opponent and you're starting the season 0-1. Mm-hmm. So this just goes to show that maybe, just maybe, in this new era of college football where you have so much newness, so many transfers, it's still a work in progress. You don't have the exhibition. You don't have the preseason. Maybe playing the Virginia Techs of the world in the opener is the way to do it instead of playing the LSU, maybe one of the better teams. Lee Corso picked them to win it all this season. Maybe South Carolina fans and the program, they're set up in a really good spot, even though they have to be better. We all know that. They're set up in a really good spot because Virginia Tech tested them enough to show their deficiencies, but they didn't test them enough to win the game. Ultimately, winning the game is all that matters right now.
You get more out of that, an ugly win. You get more out of an ugly win than you do by torching an FCS opponent by 50. I mean, let's be real. You don't learn anything about your team. Yeah, you may be able to marginally figure some things out. But all coaches, they want to be tested, right? And being tested now, it's not going to change things for South Carolina State. Gamecocks are going to roll them by 50, you know. But you got to have these tests early. Now, what I was saying about the offensive line, you know, being holier than Mother Teresa, that is mitigated by the fact that Lenore Sellers knows how to use his legs. And he's smart enough and quick enough to recognize it, and he rolls out, and he'll make you pay anyway. So even if the offensive line right now isn't great, and it can improve as the season goes along, you've got a quarterback that knows how to deal with that kind of pressure, and that's a great thing.
I do want to address Giants fan 21 on the YouTube stream because he's completely wrong. He's giving us a hard time. He goes back and he says, I notice when Clemson wins games like this, that y'all never bring it up. South Carolina does it, and it's a problem. JB responded, Madcraft responded and said they were literally hard on Clemson the entire season last year. What are you talking about? JB says Cole's a Clemson fan, and he was hard on them all year last year. And he goes on to say, it's funny, Clemson never plays anybody every single year, and y'all never say anything, but in South Carolina, when it's not good, we all have a commotion. Giants fan, no disrespect, but Guy, you obviously don't watch this show. You obviously don't listen to this show. You obviously only drop in to give your 2 cents, which, by the way, are completely not factual. We appreciate you watching the show, but if you're going to watch and comment, make sure you have your facts straight because your facts aren't anywhere close to straight. We've been hard on Clemson all year last year. Nobody was harder on Clemson than I was a season ago. So if you're going to pop in and say dumb stuff that's true. Saying dumb stuff that's true is fine, but when you say dumb stuff that's not true, even our Tolos who do watch every day are already calling you out on it. We're calling you out on it. That's fine. We appreciate you. We don't want to lose you. But if you're going to comment, make sure you know what you're talking about. Sorry. Little rant.
Yeah, good God. I'm feeling a certain kind of way, Cole. How about that?
I had to get that off my chest.
Look, there's some positives to take away from this game. You know, the fact that Shane Beamer out-Beamered the program that Beamer built with that special teams play. I was listening to his post-game press conference, and he said, nothing good happens when you re-kick. And he was talking about a Clemson game. I don't know if it was last year, if it was the year before. But he was talking about anytime there's a re-kick, it never goes the way that you think it will. And, I remember when they forced Virginia Tech to re-kick that ball, and the Virginia Tech punter boomed it. That was a good re-kick. I was thinking, oh my, that is not going to work out in South Carolina's favor. And then number 4 happened, and he took the ball back, and that was the spark. I mean, think about it. This was a touchdown in the opening drive for South Carolina and a couple of field goals since kind of game for them. This was an ugly football game until that sparked them. And then, obviously it went on to have another touchdown from South Carolina, the pass to Nick Harbor in the end zone. Speaking of passes to Nick Harbor in the end zone, he should have had 2. He should have had 2 touchdowns because that was ludicrous.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to know what a catch is. We've been talking about this since the NFL changed the catch rule like 15 years ago. We've been debating what's a catch and what's not a catch. And it's ludicrous that we don't have a centralized decision-making review core, because the technology is there for somebody to be able to watch it in real time back in a hub and say, no, this interpretation of what the rule is the rule because I am the last person on the totem pole to make that decision. That was a catch. You can't change my mind otherwise.
So here's my whole thing with that. And I tweeted this out, and all of a sudden, I guess South Carolina fans were so upset. It just blew up as soon as I tweeted it out. Diesel, the entire conversation about this catch, it's very simple. And I said it on Twitter, on X, at the Cole Bryson. I understand controlling the ball to the ground. Everybody does. You control the ball to the ground, right? In the field of play, Diesel, you control the ball to the ground. However, that rule should not apply to the end zone. If you catch and secure the ball in the end zone with feet down and the ball is secured, what happens from the time you leave the end zone until the time you run to Circle K and get 2 hot dogs off the little roller machine shouldn't matter. If you possess the ball in the end zone and you're down, play's over. Same thing with when the ball breaks the plane, Diesel, a runner or a quarterback, the ball breaks the plane, boom, it's over. So why does it apply differently to a receiver? What happens 15 steps after? That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah, the situational application of rules is ridiculous. Either we need to change the rule that makes a running back control the ball to the ground, right? I mean, think about a guy that's getting tackled at the 1. He reaches out, gets the nose of the football across the goal line. Doesn't matter if he fumbles the ball after that or not. As long as he has control and his knees are off the ground, when that tip of that football goes across the line, that's a touchdown. So we either need to change that rule that says the runner must maintain control all the way to the ground and a fumble is a fumble, or we need to change the rule when a receiver receives the ball.
I'm with you. South Carolina fans on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line are pretty much in agreement here. Gamecock fan from the 483 says, I'm a Carolina fan and I 100% agree with you. Lots of room for improvement. Another texter says, I give the Gamecocks a C. Let's see here. Texter from the 561 says the South Carolina defense played well. I thought they did have Judge Collier got hurt. That was big, no doubt. We talked about that. Judge going out was not good. Texter also points out that Fred Johnson is a beast. O-line struggled. And I will say this, bright spot-wise, Diesel, before we run to a break about Fred Johnson, you and I had the conversation a couple of weeks ago about the linebackers for that defensive unit and the question marks there. Fred Johnson played his butt off on Sunday. That guy, if you're a Gamecock fan, you should be more excited about Fred Johnson. His lateral speed, his ability to get to the sideline and run side to side horizontally on the football field, that guy's going to be so special. We all know how good Dylan and Judge and all those guys are, but Fred Johnson impressed me more than anybody on Sunday.
Yeah, there were, like I said, there were plenty of bright spots on that South Carolina defense, and probably the best defensive player for you is Benji Gosnell. You might not even know who that is. That's because he plays wide receiver for Virginia Tech, and he dropped 2 balls on that drive down at the end of the game. Might not have affected the outcome overall, but I mean, God bless Kyron Jones. Yeah. He can't get the ball off the turf, and when he finally does, his guys can't catch it. And that was ugly. If you're a Virginia Tech's offensive coordinator, you are taping footballs to these guys' hands to teach them the importance of 2 hands on the ball and not dropping it. For crying out loud, catch the ball, Hokies.
Kane on the YouTube stream says, Giants fan, if you're going to troll, have some better material. Facts. Tell him, Kane, if you're going to troll.
Kane's a great troll.
At least be a good troll. Don't be a bad troll. if you're going to troll, do it right. Dewey's also on them. Yates is talking about the Tar Heels. We'll get to that.
Whew.
Tough one last night.
Yeah.
There are so many texts on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. We'll get back to them. But since we were off yesterday, we do have Grayson, Mann, Tiger Net coming up right now to talk Clemson. We also will have Jack Veltri in an hour from now to talk Gamecocks. Tolos, when we tell you today is a slam-packed, absolute loaded show, we mean it. Turn it on, leave it on, don't go anywhere. Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com next. Time to talk a little Clemson Tigers. We spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking South Carolina, being told we were wrong. Some people agree with us, but nonetheless, we appreciate you listening or watching the show, even if you do get me worked up in the first 10 minutes of the program. Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com, one of the absolute best, joins us right now on the Fan Upstate to talk about the Clemson Tigers and the big game on Saturday night against LSU. Obviously, we all know how that game went down. Clemson falls, 1 touchdown score. Grayson, let's start. Before we get into the details of the game, I want to start with the most recent thing that happened today, Dabo Swinney's press conference. Again, this is my opinion. I'm not, coming at you or anybody else, but the holier than thou, don't criticize my program, Dabo Swinney press conference that we heard today. I think it's a load of crap. I know that Dabo Swinney believes that we all just create narratives and all the things that we say out there are all made up 100% of the time. It's never factual. 0-4 in the last 4 against the SEC. Y'all can create all the narratives y'all want. Am I the only person that feels this way?
I think it depends on who you ask. It's one of those things where we got the same sort of tirade's probably not the best word, but the same sort of deal last year after the Georgia matchup. And I think Swinney will have his comments. He'll have his way he perceives things. He and Brian Kelly exchanged responses, per se, where Swinney kind of started and Kelly finished it. With the grading system that he had for LSU today, I loved it. I like it when he gets up there and he gets a little defensive, and I think Clemson's always good for it when their backs are against the wall a little bit. So I think if you're a fan, you see a little bit extra oomph from Swinney today, I think you should probably be excited about it. Maybe if it's BS, maybe it's not. From my standpoint, when he gets fired up, it's usually good for entertainment.
Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com. We knew that rushing the ball was going to be a problem coming into the season, not having a real running back, moving a wide receiver over. Look, only 31 net rushing yards in a game, and your leading rusher when it comes to carries, at least. I don't know if the yardage, no, that was led by Adam Randall. But when your quarterback has the most number of runs on your team, that's not good. That's the textbook definition of one-dimensional. So talk about the decision-making in going so pass heavy in this game and essentially abandoning the run.
I think abandon is the right word to use when you talk about Clemson's run game on Saturday night. I believe the last time a running back touched the football when it came to a run at all was the first play of the second half was the last time we saw it, especially from Adam Randall. And I think when you look at it, got a chance to watch the game yesterday, and it felt like for at least the offense, you don't realize it in the moment, but they were really one-dimensional. It's sort of the thing that we've been harping on all offseason was that Clemson's run game, with the way Phil Maffa kind of ended the season last year, the busted shoulder, Clemson was kind of forced to go one-dimensional just because they didn't really trust the guys behind him. Ezimume wasn't ready yet. Keith Adams Jr. isn't really your typical 3-down back. And Jay Haynes was still kind of emerging behind the scenes before he got hurt. And so for this year, you kind of looked at it as, okay, running the football, there should be more of a balance there. And against LSU, I know it wasn't working early, and we can have a conversation about how Clemson's offensive line played against LSU. But I think still, you got to find a way to keep the defense honest. At one point, LSU was rushing 7 and really trusting those defensive backs to play on an island. And it really felt like they had Clemson's number offensively in the second half. I think if you're a Clemson fan, the play calling is from Garrett Riley in these big games. I think it's fair to question it. It's been pretty inconsistent the last 3 years where it feels like the playbook shrinks a little bit. And in that case, where you have a running back in Adam Randall, where in a situation, or at least an offseason, that's been pretty positive on that front, where heard great things about him in scrimmages, great things from coaches talking to us, and don't really see that materialize at all on the field. It only results in 5 plays, and one of those was a 1-yard touchdown where get a little juice in the building. Feel like you need to run the football a lot more if you're going to be successful, and that only serves to not really benefit your quarterback that well, especially when he's prone to being flustered in these situations.
Grayson, at what point Saturday night did you kind of feel like, okay, in order for Clemson to win this game, offense, it's a struggle. As we talked about, they couldn't run the football. The passing game wasn't dynamic by any means. At what point did you feel like it's not going good if something somehow, some way is going to turn? maybe it's the defense that has to go make a play, get a turnover, and go score. Did that come pretty early for you, or did you kind of have hope even to that very last drive?
I felt like it was going to be a rock fight even before the game started. And I feel like Ohio State and Texas was a great confirmation of that. Week 1 recently with college football has been really sloppy, especially in these big time matchups where you don't really see a lot being thrown out on the table. It's very safe. It's very vanilla. Maybe that's a product of they're not hitting as much during camp. The preseason, there's not really much to work with there. So you're kind of still learning as you go week 1. And so for this Clemson team, it kind of validated that, yeah, I thought 24-20 was a pretty fair score and even was lesser than that on Saturday. So I think at halftime, I felt like Clemson was in a really good spot, even with the offensive struggles. You created turnovers. I thought Tom Allen's defense, for the most part, I'd give them a very fair grade on that front. Just offensively, you couldn't get anything. It felt like at halftime, and I talked to plenty of people, and just in that 15-minute break where we get things going, and it felt like, yeah, you have the true turnovers. You've held LSU's offense in check for the most part. It felt like in that moment in the second half, that opening drive where they missed the field goal, that's where I felt like things started to fall apart for them, and momentum obviously shifted with the Klubnik interception. But Clemson's been a team that's been chasing moments like that where they need to come out on that front. It felt like the Duke inverse of the Duke game where LSU was driving down the field, just couldn't. They kept coughing up the football. And at the end of the day, Clemson had a lot of opportunities out there, and they couldn't cash them in.
Speaking of that interception, that may be the lone, really bad mistake that Cade Klubnik made over the course of this football game. There were opportunities, and if we're talking about Cade from 2024, even 2023, some of those balls that he was able to get out of bounds would have been really bad sacks or maybe possibly worse. So in that front, if you're a Clemson fan, you got to be happy that his decision-making has improved in some of those situations. Would you attribute that to maturity? What was the emphasis on that to try to eliminate as many of those ugly sack losses?
I think you just got to live for another down. And for a third-year senior quarterback, when you have a rusher coming at you right and it sort of speeds up your process, at that point, you either try to escape to make another play or you live to fight another down and you just take the hit. It felt like that was a 2023 Klubnik decision where that ball is not going where it's supposed to be. It floats up, and it's a really easy interception for the defensive back. So for the most part, I think Klubnik, in terms of decision-making, was fine. I just feel like sometimes he maybe scrambled out a little too early, wasn't seeing some of the open looks, because there are points where Riley does design some of these open routes where you attack that blitzing side and you have maybe Tyler Brown or Wesco, Moore, Williams open on some of these quick hitches. Just Klubnik's not finding them. I think flustered's the right word for Saturday night. Just felt off from the jump. A couple missed throws here and there, but I think overall you could have had a lot worse from a couple throws. LSU was in their face the entire night. The offensive line really struggled to hold up in protection, something that didn't necessarily shock me, but I thought from LSU's standpoint, a lot of unknowns on that side of the ball. So maybe that's just because of the transfer portal nature of it. You just don't know how it's going to fit. But, man, they came out there, and it was pretty evident early that Clemson was going to have to figure out a way to get out ahead of this. And I didn't really feel like they took advantage of some of those quicker throws that LSU was making.
Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. So where are you, or let me ask you this. Let me rephrase that, Grayson. In your mind, where should Clemson fans be? Because I was walking out of the game Saturday night. There were a lot of Clemson fans who were really, really disappointed. You hear things like today when you heard Dabo's presser, right? He brings up all of these statistics from his laundry list that he keeps where he brings up all of these records and wins and doesn't like the narratives against the program. Where do you think fans should be? Should they be frustrated 0-4 in the last 4 against the SEC? Or should they truly listen to Dabo and just pretend like it's no big deal? 0-4 against the SEC is irrelevant. Season openers irrelevant. Where do you think Clemson fans should be?
I think there's a balance that you can have. I think it's fair to be frustrated in these openers because you're looking for that moment. For Clemson all offseason, every time we've been on the show, we've circled LSU as that game where Clemson can make proof of progress. And with Tom Allen, all the moves you make, there's your opportunity against an LSU team. You're up 10-3. heading into the half and you don't get it done, I'd be frustrated too if you were a Clemson fan sitting there for those 4 hours, and that's the result you get offensively, especially because that's the group with the most returners, a lot less question marks on that side of the ball. Garrett Riley, Klubnik, year 3. Feels like in those bigger moments. I look at Josh Hoover last night. I know UNC's a talent deficit, but that looked like how a third-year quarterback in an offense should look. Calm, cool, collected, making big throws. I know it's not fair to compare the UNC and LSU defenses. Definitely not. But there is a level of maturity that comes with that position for sure. But I also think Clemson's going to be fine. On the ACC talent level, I do think Clemson's going to be better than all, if not a good majority of the teams they face the rest of the way, and that includes South Carolina from a talent standpoint. I think LSU is probably right there if we're doing maybe comparisons, and LSU is going to prove to be a really good football team this year, if not a great one. And I think Clemson's probably sitting right below that. And that Saturday answer was, is Clemson great, or are they just maybe marginally better? I do think the defense is good. I think the defense has a chance to be something special with Tom Allen. There were a lot of positives on that side of the ball. Ronan Hannafin's going to be a stud, but offensively, still the same question marks in these big games that just kind of shrink and don't really rise to the occasion. And if that's who Clemson is, and they win a playoff game, and if you're a Clemson fan and you're okay with that, that's great. But if you're maybe expecting them to rise up and win a rock fight with some of these greater teams, I still don't think we have the answer to that, and maybe we won't find out for a long time.
Yeah, Grayson, you stole my thunder there. I was just about to ask you a question that you answered.
I'm sorry,
it was a statement that one of our colleagues from SEC Unfiltered made about Clemson. He was talking about Texas having a problem with big games. People have been saying it about Penn State for a while. They said it about Ohio State before Ryan Day finally won his national championship. It's being said about Texas. Do you think that Clemson has a problem in big games? How can you wrap your mind around what that actually means? Is it an over exaggeration or over amount of trust in the talent that you have?
I think it's a fair trend. I mean, you look at the last few seasons. I look at 2022, you have a home game against South Carolina, and with the way things shook up, you might have made the playoffs with DJ Uyunglele as your quarterback, but you fall 33-30 to Spencer Rattler. I look at 2024, Georgia, big opener. You get kind of your teeth kicked in, and that Georgia team went on to go to the quarterfinal of the college football playoff, wins the SEC. The home against South Carolina, it's a big top 15 matchup. Winner probably, in my mind, should have been a home playoff. South Carolina should have made the playoff, in my mind, still from last year. And Clemson, they win that game, they're definitely in the playoffs and needed a backdoor cut from Syracuse to make it to the postseason. Now, to give them credit, they did win against SMU, but by the skin of their teeth in a fourth quarter collapse. And then Texas, obviously, you're kind of chasing that in them and Jadon Blue in the fourth quarter. So I do think there's a lot of examples where Clemson's coming up short, but still 2 ACC championships. They've made the playoffs last year, so that still are positive points. But I think this is a fan base that's searching for more, and they're searching for a team that can consistently compete for championships again. Is that this team? It could be. But as of right now, I don't think we have any evidence that would show me otherwise than maybe they're marginally better, at least defensively, on the other side of the ball. I do think they are. I think that's fair. Tom Allen is going to have this team where it should be defensively, and I think maybe that creates more wins this year and maybe less hiccups, and that will put Clemson in a much better spot. But when we get to, let's just put hypothetically out here, guys, and sorry for the long ramble.
No, you're good.
But let's say Clemson wins the ACC and they go 11-1, or they find redemption against South Carolina. I think that mulligan depends on how good South Carolina is by the end of the season. Then maybe we have a different conversation. But let's just say they're 10-2 and they win the ACC. How good truly is Clemson compared to the 12-team field? Because they'll get in. They'll have a home playoff game, or maybe they'll be on the road most likely in that first round. But I do think there'll be a lot of questions about Clemson, and they're good, but are they great?
It's a good way to put it. I want to ask you this, my last question for you. Based on what you saw, I agree with you on the defense, by the way. I do think the defense is better in 2025. Let's fast forward to the playoff. Clemson gets a draw against an SEC team. Are your feelings going to be different? Are Clemson fans' feelings going to be different after, let's be honest, they've probably won 10 games between now and then, right? Or are we going to remember who Clemson truly is? And in my mind, this is just my opinion here. Or do you think the fan base will fall back into the trap of, hey, look, we've won 10 games. We're still going to have a chance against this SEC team here?
It'll be hard not to, especially it depends on how these 10 games go. Now, Cole, they could be 10-1 heading into that game against South Carolina. And while I don't think South Carolina is going to be as good as they were last year, I think Lenore Sellers gives them a chance in every game. And that was the reason that South Carolina won in Clemson was 16. And he'll give you a chance in every single game. So I think it just depends. 2024 is kind of the blueprint for this, where Clemson does have an opportunity to kind of roll through the rest of their schedule to about, I would say, I think Georgia Tech, if they can get past that, then there's a real opportunity for them to stack wins until November. And then we're really left with a question of, man, Clemson looks good, but let's sort of look at the level of talent on the field. If they're beating up Syracuse, that has regressed roster-wise. If they're beating North Carolina, that got their teeth kicked in last night, good Lord.
Yeah.
That looked pretty bad last night. So there's going to be I think it's going to be a lot of hanging questions. I think Clemson's going to be a good football team this year. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't know. We'll see.
Grayson, did you make it to the point where Kirk put his dog on the air? Like, did you watch that far into the game, or did you call it quits before that?
I got to 41-7 and thought, okay, I think my time's probably better spent by resting my head on a pillow. There's no magical comeback coming. I saw Max Johnson throw the touchdown pass and was thinking that's a pretty great moment for him, who had there were conversations that he might have his leg amputated on the broadcast, which was pretty scary, but good for him. But man, Bill Belichick, I really wish they had like a telecast. You know, in the national championship, they have those different broadcasts, and it's like the Sky Cast or the Pat McAfee cast. I wish they had a North Carolina Board of Trustees cast just to see what the heck they were thinking.
I like
this
it.
comes from a Patriots fan, guys. This is Belichick defender over here. Woo.
On the night when they brought out all the UNC celebrities, they were all there, and then I don't know if any of them made it to the end of the game.
Yeah, Michael Jordan might have called it quits and hit up a casino or something in North Carolina. I don't know.
Grayson, you're the best. As
Thanks,
always,
Grayson.
we appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com. What do you think my thoughts were, Diesel, last night when I was watching that broadcast and saw Kirk Herbstreit put his dog on the air? Because I was still watching, by the way. I was still watching the broadcast.
When you stop doing play-by-play to say, you know what, this game isn't even worth talking about.
Jeez.
And the game lasted forever.
I know.
It was the longest.
It was.
Slowest game. And who was it? Wasn't it Tom in Somerville? I think it was Tom. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Wasn't it Tom who told me that Gio Lopez was going to be amazing?
No, it was Tom.
At North Carolina.
It was Tom.
Said Tom, how about that? How about
he
Gio
was amazing
Lopez?
in the first drive.
Yeah, exactly.
And after that, not much.
I mean, he looks stacked. He looks like a stout dude. If he can't play quarterback, maybe he could go out there and play linebacker. Jeez. When we come back, Cole, let's take our whip around the sports world, see what else is going on out there in a segment we call Our Daily Wires. So much to get to, not a ton of time, Cole. Let's hit our daily wires. The buzz happening around the sports world. The debut of Bill Belichick did not go the way that many North Carolina fans wanted. The crowd was big. The stands were full. It looked great on television, and then they got their asses kicked. 48-14 by TCU, and I loved every minute of it until I fell asleep going into the fourth quarter. An Army football player, Larry Pickett Jr., and his father pulled a man from a crashed car just before it burst into flames near the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. They got a lot of praise for their heroic and selfless actions. Definitely worth pointing out. Today marks the start of the final week of the South Atlantic League regular season. With 6 games left, Hub City holds a 2-game lead over the Greenville Drive for the second half title. The Spartanburgers' magic number is 4. If Hub City were to clinch the title and a subsequent playoff berth, the Spartanburgers would play the first game of a 3-game series at home.
Let's go.
Starting next Tuesday, the 9th.
Playoff baseball in Spartanburg? You kidding me?
Postseason playoff baseball. What is that in the South? Florida State became the first school to be fined $50,000 by the ACC for violating the newly enacted event security policy after fans stormed the field after beating Alabama 31-17. The league policy, which was put into place starting the season, applies to football and men's and women's basketball games. It was designed to protect the safety of players, coaches, officials, and fans. I'm sure they'll gladly pay $50K.
100%.
Put that on a T-shirt, by the way. A storyline to watch going into week 2, Mike Gundy versus Dan Lanning. They're bickering over money. Gundy has repeatedly highlighted the funding disparity, meaning Oklahoma State's relative lack of compared to Oregon's a ton of funding. Dan Lanning has emphasized the importance of investing in your football program. 4 top 10 teams, Texas, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Alabama, all lost during opening weekend, and that sets up the brand new AP Top 25, Cole, which has just been released. And your number 1 team are the Ohio State Buckeyes, followed by Penn State 2, LSU 3, Georgia 4, Miami 5, Oregon 6, Texas 7. Clemson falls to 8th place, Notre Dame 9th. South Carolina moves into the top 10. How about it? Top 10. South Carolina, come on and raise up. Florida State jumps to number 14. Alabama falls 13 spots to number 21. I remember we talked about which one of these top 10 teams is not going to stay in the top 25 all season long. I didn't think that it was going to be Alabama. Here's a tragic one, Cole. This is awful to have to report, but a University of Kentucky competitive cheerleader is facing criminal charges after police found a dead infant wrapped in a towel inside a black trash bag inside her closet. They are alleging that she is the child's mother. Her name is Laken Snelling. She was arrested and charged with abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, concealing the birth of an infant. So just awful stuff.
It really is. Diesel, we really took a deep dive to open the show into South Carolina Clemson. But South Carolina Clemson, what am I talking about? South Carolina Virginia Tech. I apologize. But now let's take a deep dive. We've heard from Grayson, Mann, our thoughts, Tolo's thoughts on what happened Saturday night in Death Valley, Clemson LSU. We discuss next. Well, Saturday night did not go as planned for the Clemson Tigers as LSU finally breaks the curse of being bad in the openers. Brian Kelly might have a weight lifted off of him after what happened on Saturday night. Clemson fans want to hear from you in this very segment. We open the show talking South Carolina and Virginia Tech. We open hour number 2 of the show talking Clemson. 844-326-3663 is the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. The phone lines are also open as well. We have Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central joining us in 20 minutes on the show. Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday coming up in 1 hour. Upset picks 2 hours from now, just looking back at who won, who lost last weekend. But Diesel, 17-10 final score. LSU takes down Clemson. You and I both picked Clemson. The national pundits out there picked Clemson. And Clemson, to be honest, to be fair, it was a very popular, trendy pick to win the national championship in 2025. Clemson was disappointing on Saturday in multiple areas. But when you talk about the disappointment, and we'll get to the text line because it's already blowing up, and the phone lines are open as well. When you talk about the word disappointment, where in your mind does the disappointment start if you're a Clemson fan watching what you saw on Saturday?
Well, before I get to that, not all the national pundits picked Clemson. Lee Corso picked LSU. And by God, Lee Corso was on it.
Yeah.
In his final opportunity to pick the headgear. He was all over Ohio State. He was all over Florida State. He was all over LSU. So congratulations to Coach for having a great week when it comes to picks. And of course, for having a phenomenal career. College Game Day is not going to be as good without Lee Corso.
Yes, it will be better.
No, it won't.
It'll be better.
I mean, better than the last 5 years. Yeah. But when you're thinking of Corso at his best, there was even a moment there, Cole, when Pat McAfee said, I like to compare myself to you. Stop, Pat. Come on, dude. It's not the time. Not the time. What an idiot. But the number one disappointment, it's hard to pick a number one disappointment, but it's clearly the run game, right? You could not get anything going against this LSU defense running the football. Credit to LSU's defense. It's really good, but come on. When you've got the strength of what was a top 15, top 10 offensive line, and you can't get your running backs any room to run, that flat out sucks. And you're not going to win a whole lot of football games. I don't care if it's against LSU or if it's against Troy this weekend. If you can't get push off the offensive line and your running backs can't move the ball and you make your quarterback and receiver do everything, then you're not going to win games.
Yeah, so I was there. Look, I for whatever reason, the usual see it different than a lot of Clemson fans do. Especially the Clemson fans that buy into the, let's just say, media narrative driven, everything's okay train. Let's just put it that way. If that makes sense. If it don't, it doesn't matter. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But let me just say this. What you saw Saturday night between Clemson and LSU was multiple things. Multiple reasons why Clemson lost, right? Multiple things can be true. I have multiple thoughts on why Clemson lost the game. I'll start with what you brought up. The offensive line and running game was atrocious. Now, when you talk about offensive line and run game, Phil Steele, in his magazine, had Clemson's offensive line as one of the top units in 2025. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, right? Going unit by unit. Clemson's offensive line got whooped every play, it seemed like, on Saturday night, especially on the edge. Clemson could not protect the edge of the offensive line against those defensive ends from LSU. So when you talk about the offensive line, to your point, Diesel, you just brought it up. What people have to understand and remember is everything happens, good or bad, because of the offensive line. If the team's really good, if the run game and the quarterback and everything's really, really good, most likely the offensive line play was really good, right? If the team and the run game and the quarterback and everything else was really, really bad, there's a good chance the offensive line play was really, really bad. And Saturday night, Clemson's offensive line play was really, really bad. They could not block. They could not run block. They could not pass protect. And Diesel, if you watch the plays on Saturday where Cade Klubnik took the snap and rolled left or rolled right, you know what usually can happen against an ACC team? Go back and watch the game. Usually Cade can roll out of the pocket, turn his body, set his feet, and make a play. However, the ends of LSU were so good, so strong, so fast that when Cade took the snap, if the pocket collapsed and he rolled out, every time, almost every time Saturday night, it ended badly. He couldn't turn his body. He couldn't set his feet. He couldn't make those throws. He made a few runs. He couldn't make a lot of runs. The speed defensively caught up to Clemson on Saturday night, and the lack of speed offensively for Clemson up front, it was atrocious. So Clemson fans need to understand, Diesel, going back to your point, when your offensive line is bad, a lot's going to look bad. Clemson's run game was horrible. Do I think Clemson's run game is as bad as they looked Saturday night? No, I don't think they're that bad. But guess what? The offensive line didn't help him out. Do I think Cade Klubnik was as bad as he was Saturday? No, but the offensive line didn't help him out. Everything, Diesel, stems from the offensive line.
Yeah, and look, Cade, despite being on the run the entire game, like I brought up earlier with Grayson, Mann, I thought a couple of times he made some good decisions where he was –
a couple of times,
he threw the ball away rather than taking a sack a couple of – I mean, he was – they were on his heels the entire game. So he had lots of opportunities to prove that one. Now, that interception from Cade was just a – what were you doing, Cade? Because he threw into zone with three guys that could crash on that wide receiver. I mean, it was just bad. You throw that ball away. You throw that ball away and live to play another down. I think those were Grayson's words exactly.
Sure.
But it's one of those things that says, man, they just must have really been confusing Cade's eyes in that game. He must have thought they were playing some kind of a man, and then they back off into the zone. But by that point, he was already in his windup, and it was too late. I mean, it was a bad decision because I saw there was the safety up high, and then there was a DB and possibly a linebacker kind of directly in front of him. They were side by side on roughly the same yard line, and they just all crashed to the ball. As soon as he let it go, they all knew where that ball was going.
Yeah.
And either you have to throw that one like a rocket, or you have to throw that ball away.
So we addressed the offensive line. We addressed the running back. You brought up Cade. Let me give my thoughts on Cade. I watched the game. I did not, for the record, go back and watch the game on TV. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I usually do, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I watched the game in person, Diesel. From my perspective on Saturday night, it seemed like every time Cade Klubnik snapped the football, every time, again, I wasn't watching with the great camera angles and the great views that you all were, unless you were at the game like I was. It seemed as if Cade was locked in on a guy from the get-go. What do I mean by that? When you go back and watch the game, I may not. If you do, you will see, in my mind, in my opinion, that Cade Klubnik, from the very get-go, from the very beginning of the snap, he takes the snap, he drops back, and he's eyeing his guy. He's got his target locked in. He did this in the first quarter twice on the same drive, threw a post route in the double coverage. The guy's clearly double covered, but he locked in. He didn't check his reads. He didn't check down. He didn't really process. Now, does the offensive line have a lot to do with that? Maybe so. Does the lack of running game have a lot to do with that? Maybe so. Did Cade have extra pressure on him because he didn't have a run game and the offensive line was terrible? Maybe so. But Cade reading the defense was not good Saturday. I understand that Cade Klubnik's a good quarterback, and there are Clemson fans out there that may think, Cole, you're being too hard on him. But you talk about reading a defense. That's important. The second thing, what was the biggest difference between what Cade did and Garrett did? Diesel, I'll tell you this. This is a fact. Why Garrett Nussmeier will be a good NFL quarterback. Why I don't know that Cade will be. Go back and watch the game. You know what NFL quarterbacks are really good at doing? NFL quarterbacks are really good at getting the ball out quick. Tom Brady was the best at it. NFL quarterbacks realize you have to get the ball out quick. Nussmeier got the ball out quick every snap. Cade Klubnik didn't get the ball out quick, and that's a big red flag. He just wasn't while he had areas around it that weren't good, I admit that he wasn't crisp on Saturday. And that doesn't, if you're a Clemson fan, it can't sit well with you.
If you're going to take that much time to get the ball out of your hand, you have to be an elite level scrambler, right? You have to have the weapon at your disposal of receiver of DBs not knowing what it is you're going to do. And you have to have the ability to tuck it and run. Despite all of that, Cole, they had the opportunity to go down there and tie that football game late. There was that throw, I believe it was to TJ Moore. It was a crossing route from Cade's right to his left. And yeah, it was covered and the defender played good, tight defense, but the ball hit him in the hands. Come on, TJ Moore. That's first down. You have to have in that situation. It hits you in the hands. You got to catch that ball. You got to fight forward instead of just running parallel along that hash mark. You got to come up a little bit closer to the quarterback, move in a yard, get your hands on that football first. It seems like he just waited for that ball to come to him. And, they had a chance, just couldn't get it done.
Diesel, I go back to that fourth quarter. You just mentioned it. We're going to get to the phone lines in just a second. Clemson, to your point, yes, they did have opportunities. They did have more. They had plenty of opportunities. But guess what? And Clemson fans out there watching or listening, tell me if you agree or disagree. Sitting in those stands Saturday night, Diesel, even though, to your point, Clemson had chance after chance, I never felt like they would do it. I never felt like they were actually going to threaten them. When you watch football enough, when you see guys running into the butts of their offensive linemen over and over, it gives you no confidence, no faith, no hope. I never felt like sitting there Saturday, you know what? Clemson can come back and win this thing.
I think they thought when they went into halftime with a lead, didn't they miss that field goal right at the end of the half that would have made it a 10-point ball game, ended up being 10-3 at half. I think Clemson fans, especially after they made that stop, right? I think they thought, the team, we've got this. We've got the momentum. They're just going to roll over. They're going to fold like Wake Forest does. It's not what happens when you play SEC teams.
Let's go to the phone lines. Michael, who I believe was the same texter talking about on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line that he was a student at Clemson, maybe a different Michael. But Michael, appreciate you calling the show. Your thoughts on Clemson?
Hey, Cole, I appreciate you letting me join on.
Yeah, man.
Y'all touched on a good bit of points that I agree with 100%. I think it's good that, that this loss was honestly needed. It shows honestly what we are capable of. But I mean, at the end of the day, it does suck. I think defensively, we looked great other than a few PI calls that, some of them were controversial or, that could have been better covered. Like Woodaz trying to cover that big guy. I guess it's a good matchup, but at the end of the day, he can't really, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. He struggled at times.
Offensively, yes, you can blame the offensive line in some parts of this, but it seemed like either Cade the first reaction was he was going to his first read regardless of what the situation is.
Thank you.
You can look back, if you look at the film, the last two plays on the last drive to win the game, we had Tyler Brown open for a touchdown on the fourth down, and Cade went to the slant with Wesco, with him constantly dropping balls, and TJ doesn't help either.
Yeah.
But if we're getting stopped on the run for 6 plays, I don't mean you just quit doing it. You got to keep pounding it. Randall's a big guy, and I just feel like that Riley completely just threw that out. And like Diesel said, you can't win games just throwing the ball constantly.
Yeah. You
got to get the run game going. So I think it was good to see that, what we need to work on, but some of this stuff is stuff that I feel like we could definitely change.
I agree with you, Michael. By the way, appreciate you listening, watching the show, and thanks for the call, man.
Thanks, Michael.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff there.
Here's the thing, Cole. I've watched Clemson every year build a roster that's good enough to bully the ACC. They have not built in a long time, a roster that could even attempt to bully an SEC team.
Well, how long a long time? Trevor Lawrence, is that what you mean by that?
Was that 7 years ago?
Yeah, is that what you mean by a long time?
Yeah, that's what I mean by a long time. They are not building rosters to be able to compete in the postseason or in regular season games against the teams that they would likely see in the postseason. They're not building that kind of a roster. They've got an elite ACC roster. And if that's all you want out of your seasons, great. Have fun beating the tar out of Wake Forest and Syracuse and whoever else. But you're not building a roster full of dogs that can go beat SEC and elite Big Ten teams once you get into the playoff.
So let me touch on that. That goes back to, and again, the last time Matt Kraft says 2019, whenever Trevor and those guys beat the brakes off Bama, right, in the national championship. How many years ago that was now? Diesel, I believe when you watch Saturday night, to your point, Clemson will win 9-10 games against ACC teams this year, right? When you watch Saturday night, offensive line was bad. Clemson didn't have it. Okay, let me say this. It didn't look as if Clemson had a capable running back on the roster, right? There were glaring needs. Anybody who watched that game Saturday can tell you that there were needs on the roster that weren't filled. Who's that go back to? That goes back to the guy who stood at the podium today and made fun of everybody and made it a joke and told everybody, you made fun of the crowd that believes that it's time to throw mud on Clemson again, and then that makes fun of people who criticize Clemson and bring up things about being 0-4. It goes back to Dabo moving a receiver to running back. When is the last time you heard of an SEC program moving a receiver to a running back? When is the last time you heard of a successful top-tier SEC program saying, you know what, Diesel, we have a need. We're not going to address it in the portal. We're just going to move a receiver over. That's where we are. A lot of Clemson fans out there don't want to admit it. If you listen to the other station in town, that's fine. Great. Do your thing. But guess what? I'm not going to sit here and tell you what they tell you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you know what? Adam Randall's going to be the greatest story in college football in 2025. Well, when's that story going to start, Dabo? Because it sure as heck didn't start Saturday night. That's my whole point. You address things in the offseason or you don't. If you do, you'll probably win big games. If you don't, we'll be talking about it on Tuesday morning. You can call it throwing mud on your program all you want, Dabo, but somebody who's a Clemson fan, who has been born and raised a Clemson fan my entire life, I, Diesel, find it so frustrating that our coach stands up there at the podium and belittles people and makes fun of people who criticize the program when they 100% are basing it off of facts. Being 0-4 against the SEC is not a made-up narrative. Well, you know what our all-time record against the SEC is? Well, we don't care about what have you done for me lately? That's just where I am.
Yeah, this is a new story, a new narrative, season by season. It's almost like making that decision to move a receiver to running back. It's like he was trying to create another Ray McElrathby story. Like the Disney movie. Like he was trying to wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if I could be loyal to a guy who's been loyal to me and give him an opportunity to play another position? And if he just goes and is great, if you don't have a great offensive line, that guy's going to look like buns and you're going to end up moving him back to receiver before the end of the season.
With you.
When we come back, Cole, let's flip it back around and talk South Carolina Gamecocks with a guy that I got a chance to get some FaceTime with this past weekend. Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central going to join us next on the Fan Upstate. Well, it wasn't the cleanest win, and it wasn't the most exciting game from just after that first touchdown all the way until the fourth quarter. But the South Carolina Gamecocks get the win. They're sitting at 1-0. That's got to feel good. To talk about it right now, we bring on Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Jack, welcome into the show. I've been attacked pretty heavily since I sent my final Facebook post at the end of that game, complaining about the offensive line, the defensive line, the secondary. And I've also been catching a lot of heat for not giving South Carolina their credit. So what's been the tenor of the Gamecock fans on your website and your social medias?
Can't please everybody, Diesel. That's the thing about South Carolina fans and college football fans in general. Like, a lot of them expect excellence, and it doesn't matter what week of the year it is. It could be week 1, it could be week 14, whatever it is. These fans expect the best, and especially with South Carolina having the hype going into the year. If one drive does not go right, there's going to be someone complaining about it. That's just normal. But I think people feel pretty good about where things are at right now. You'd like South Carolina to come out of that game playing a little bit better. But all things considered, I think from my perspective, just watching them in person in Atlanta and just watching back on the tape, I think Carolina played pretty well in all 3 phases. They made a lot of good plays. Were there some things that went wrong? Yes. Every team had issues in week 1, it seemed like. But a lot of those teams lost, right? Alabama lost. Clemson lost. Texas lost. All top 10 teams right there. Carolina's in the top 10 now, and they won.
Jack, after the bowl game, there were a lot of overreactions about the new OC, Mike Shula. Now that they've seen 2 games, the bowl game, which he'd been there like 44 seconds, and, as the OC, and then this game, a full off season under his belt. How do you feel? How do you think Gamecock fans feel about seeing Mike Shula after he's been named the OC, a few months later now?
Well, I saw a lot of Gamecock fans on our site complaining about Shula and him not being I don't think I saw anyone saying not being the guy for the job, but they weren't really happy with the play calling, I think, when South Carolina wasn't scoring touchdowns. And I think that's normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
If things aren't going well right away, then somebody's going to complain, right? But I think when you really look at it, like, it's really hard to score every single drive. That's not going to happen. This isn't 2022 Tennessee where you're just scoring at will. But I think with South Carolina in this game, the first drive of the game was really, really good. And one important thing to note, we spoke with a few of the guys today, and then Shane Beamer, Oscar Attaway, Carolina running back in his 7th year, did say that the first drive was not necessarily scripted. And Shane kind of backed that up a little bit, saying, like, yes and no. Like, were there some scripted plays? Yes, of course. But, it seemed like some of that drive was definitely not scripted. So that, I think, changed the tune for some Gamecock fans. I know I posted on our site, on our Insiders Forum or whatever, and mentioned the fact that, hey, like, this is something interesting. And, a lot of them were like, oh, that kind of changes the way I feel about how that game went for Shula and whatnot. But I think it was a good game for South Carolina's offense. The line's got to be a lot better, though. The blocking was just not very good in this game. Thought the run game was all right. Passing was all right. I think you need to get more guys involved. So a lot to clean up, but also you got the win, so that's all that matters.
Jack, to your point about coordinators, Dowell Loggins' offense scored 34 points in his first game, albeit it was against Charlotte. So against somebody else, we'll see. But, the defense, the secondary, as I was talking about before, they gave up a lot of big plays. We saw Kyron Drones really torch South Carolina for a couple of big ones. I think 3 plays, might have been 4 above 25 or 30 yards. Do you foresee Clayton White making any kind of movements and personnel adjustments this week, or is it simply a matter of these guys really needing to grow up into their roles and improve naturally, which I think they did a good job of in the fourth quarter?
I don't think that we're going to see any changes necessarily. Now, maybe in terms of who fills Judge Carter's spot now that he's banged up and doubtful for this week, according to Shane Beamer, then yeah, okay, maybe you get some changes there. But in terms of these guys just didn't play well enough or anything, no, I don't think it's the fact that they didn't play well. I thought they were fine, honestly. The defense did not give up a touchdown in this game, and a lot of that did have to do with the secondary making the plays that they did. Now, did they give up 5 explosive plays of 25 yards or more? Yes, there's no denying that. But when you watch those plays, I don't think it's like South Carolina maybe one or two times they got beat off the ball or off the off the guy, the receiver just breaking out. But I think more times than not, it was good coverage. We saw it with Brandon Cisa having two really nice pass breakups and whatnot. But I think it was more so just the VT receivers just being a little bit more turned around to the ball and making a nice catch on the play when South Carolina wasn't fully turned around. So I think that's really what it came down to. That's something you can fix in practice, but I don't really foresee any major changes or anything this week, unless it has to do with, obviously, Judge not being out there.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, joins us every Tuesday at 4:22 p.m. Jack, one of our Tolos in Traveler's Rest brought this up on the text line a minute ago, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. He says Shula is hamstringing Lenoris in the run game. He didn't run much in the bowl game or Sunday. There were multiple spots in both games that he should have run, but he didn't when he would have earlier last season. Do you buy into that at all? Do you think Lenoris needs to be involved in the run game a little bit more?
I think yes. I think you'd like to see him use more of his legs. But I don't really agree with the fact that they didn't use him at all running wise in this game. Like, do we forget the fact that Lenoris scored the first touchdown of the game running the football on a QB draw, designed QB draw, might I add? And then also, he had that big fourth down play at the end of the game that kind of sealed the deal for South Carolina. So, look, he took off and ran a little bit in this game. Maybe not as much as you would like, but wasn't that the thing we talked about around this time last year with him running, I think, like 20-something times in the Old Dominion game? Isn't it kind of contradictory that we wanted him to throw the ball more in that game? So, again, I thought he played fine in this game. He only threw 19 passes, and I think the stat sheet kind of lies a little bit because I hate the fact that this isn't the case in the NFL, but you see it in college where the sacks are adjusted with the yardage that you rush for. So in reality, without the sacks, Sellers ran for about 70 yards and a touchdown, which is pretty good, I'd say, for him and a quarterback. But on the stat sheet, it's going to say about 25 or so yards. So, again, look deeper into the numbers, and you'll see it was a pretty good day running the football for him. So I don't necessarily agree with the fact that, like, they're not running him really at all, or they should run more. I think they should run more just a little bit. But, again, the situation didn't necessarily call for it. And I think it's week one. It's a one-game sample size. We'll see him run more when the time calls for it.
Go give him a follow on Twitter at Jack T. Veltri, Veltri. What did you think of the breakdown between Oscar Attaway and Rasul Faison with the number of carries, the number of yards they were getting per carry? Attaway seemed like he got a lot more snaps, but Rasul was busting them open.
Yeah, I thought the usage was fine. I would have liked to see more of Isaiah Auguste too, just because we heard a lot about him coming out of camp and stuff, having a good fall with the Gamecocks before the season started. But I thought the usage was pretty good. I mean, between Attaway and Faison, they went for over 100 yards, which is very good to see. Oscar got the start in the backfield, which I was a little surprised about, just because, again, Faison had been ramping up, ready to go. Like, he had been practicing for the last few weeks, even before he got cleared. So I guess Oscar had a better camp, if I had to imagine, in terms of why he started. But either way, you put one of those guys out there, they're going to do their job. They're both veterans at this point. So I thought they both had really good runs. I thought, specifically with Faison, I thought that 30-yard run he had right after the sack that nearly was a fumble loss was a huge play right there. And just it's a microcosm of what we know he can do. We saw it on tape at Utah State. We see the way he's elusive and able to make defenders miss and stuff. That's what you're hoping to see, and I think that's what we're going to see from him more times than not. But they're a nice little punch. I think it's more so not necessarily like Rocket Sanders and then Oscar Attaway like we saw last year. I think this is more of like a 1A, 1B type of combo.
Jack Charlie brought this up on our Facebook stream just now, and I had this question noted to ask you about anyways. We know that the offensive line could look different over the next couple of weeks when it comes to injuries, rather, and who did and didn't play on Sunday in Atlanta. How much of, if you're a Gamecock fan watching that, how much of that offensive line do you think will be the offensive line, that unit going forward? Or do you think that Shane Beamer and that staff might shift it, switch it up a little bit just to see if they can get better protection there?
So right now on the depth chart, which South Carolina did indeed release a depth chart this week, they got Rodney Newsome starting at left guard, which I thought was kind of surprising. But then again, you see a lot of the injured guys are listed as starters on here.
Right.
I was a little surprised because Marquis Anderson, came into that game for Newsome midway through or going into the second half, and Newsome just did not have a good day of blocking. And I thought the offensive line in general was, I gave them a D grade. I do a grading scale every single week for how the game goes with positions and whatnot. I gave them a D. I did not think the blocking was too great. Did some guys have pretty good performances? Yeah, I think the right side of the line was pretty good with Troball and Case and Henry. But, the left side, and Boaz Stanley too, they all kind of had some missed blocks, some missed pulls, missed assignments. That's an issue. And giving up 4 sacks, it's just, this has been the case for 3 years now. We hear all off season about how these guys are putting a lot of work. They're striving to get better, this and that. But when it comes to game time, it's like, it's the same things before. And I get it's blocking stuff. Defenses are going to do different things to throw you off. But, this is another year where I feel like the offensive line is just kind of a big question mark at this point.
Jack, follow up to that. Can you help me out with Marquis Anderson? Because he's not getting the snaps I thought he would be. 2 years ago, as a freshman, from my understanding, this guy was predicted to start. He got hurt, had an injury. Obviously, that sidelined him, but he's not getting near the snaps I thought he would. And you talk about that production. He did come in on Sunday and played well. Do you have any insight there?
It's going to, again, like I said, the depth chart is that thing always can change. And that's why I'm a little surprised that Rodney Newsome is listed as a starter.
Right.
There's no or next to his name. And honestly, behind Newsome, it's Shed Surratt, who didn't make the trip last week. So you got Marquis Anderson listed right behind Troball at right guard. So I don't know. I didn't think the blocking was great for Marquis either. So I don't really know what you do there at the guard spots. Tro's not going anywhere. Boaz isn't going anywhere. Josiah Thompson probably isn't going anywhere. I would like to see Tree Favalotti get some run, but I think that would have to be more at the tackle spots, and I don't know where he fits otherwise. So I'm not exactly sure what is going to happen in terms of Marquis Anderson starting or Rodney Newsome or whatever, but at least according to the depth chart, this seems to be the way it's going to be.
Jack, I got to watch most of Shane Beamer's post-game press conference, but not all of it. Maybe I didn't see it. Maybe he didn't address it at all. But, that catch in the end zone from Nick Harbor, that was definitely a catch. Has he had an opportunity to address that? Do you know if he had a chance to speak with officials to try to get some clarification on how and why that was not a touchdown?
You're talking about Shane on that, right?
Yes.
Haven't heard necessarily much about that other than what he said on Sunday. I do know from Nick talking to the media after the game as well. He did think it was a catch. Look, you look at it. He got 2 feet down, which is in the NFL. That's a catch. My colleague Wes Mitchell at Gamecock Central posted a really interesting video on his Twitter today of a catch that I think Kyron Lacey for LSU made against South Carolina last year. And it's kind of the same situation where, you argue, does he have control of the ball, possession control? And he clearly didn't, but yet they called it a catch. So, go check it out on Twitter. But it's one of those things where, again, you guys saw with the LSU Clemson game the other night. Do we even know what a catch is at this point? It's just kind of crazy. And I feel like it just kind of is this seesaw thing of going back and forth.
I'll tell you what my thought is on the whole catch thing, Jack. I think there's too many rules in place. I think that the rule is so muddied up and convoluted that there's too much of a rule in place when it comes to knowing what a catch is. Let's take a timeout, send it to New York or wherever, and let's let these two eyes decide. Is it a catch? Is it not a catch? To have possession, and this is what I don't understand, Jack. If a runner or a quarterback takes the ball and breaks the plane, it's a touchdown. But if a wide receiver catches the football, possesses it, gets the foot down. That's a touchdown to me. But what happens after the fact? If he goes from there to the Waffle House down the street, what happens between there and then is all of a sudden going to impact whether or not he made the catch?
I don't know, man. It's just quite
terrible
frankly,
rule, right?
It is, Cole. It's absurd to me, to be honest, that, we're in 2025 and I feel like we just don't have a clear indication on what a catch is. I get it. You want to have possession control, all that sort of stuff. But, man, Nick Harbor had 2 hands on that ball. He got multiple feet in. I mean, I think he took 3 steps before going out of bounds. Again, you see plays like the one Kyron Lacey made last year against South Carolina that was called a catch when it probably shouldn't have been. I mean, look, I feel like it flips back and forth, like I said, and it's just ridiculous.
Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. What was that moment like after the game? And I know that Shane has addressed it, the moment where he got first FaceTime with his dad after that game. Did he apologize for beating up on his alma mater?
No, I didn't hear any apologizing or anything. Look, the one thing I will say is that there were obviously a lot of emotions for Shane. I did remember him saying after the game that he tried to not go up to any of the VT people just because, it's emotional for him, right? And his dad's there, and he talked about how special it was that there was the Beamer ball play where you have Bakari Swin with that crazy, punt return touchdown while Frank was there. So, again, it was a really cool moment for Shane, but I know he and probably his dad as well are just glad that this game's over and that they can move on.
Jack, you're the best, man. As always, we appreciate you.
I appreciate it, fellas. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Absolutely. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. Diesel, it is Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday, right? You and I were not here yesterday. It was Labor Day. Hope our Tolos had a fantastic Labor Day. But you and I, as of late, have not had an opportunity in the 5 o'clock segment to give our overreactions because the Tolos overreact and they do such a good job. The phone lines today, I know, are going to be wild. So here's what we're going to do. You and I are going to give our overreactions next. Ooh. And then at 5 o'clock, it is Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday just for you Tolos out there. So if you have an overreaction, 20 minutes from right now, we want to hear from you right here on the Fan Upstate. Well, it's Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday, and you Tolos are going to get an entire segment to overreact in 13 minutes from right now. But Diesel and I are going to go 1 for 1 here and overreact. Try to stir the pot a little bit. Can we do that? Is that possible?
We got a couple things to say.
Couple.
That's for sure.
One
Both of
or
us
two.
have some things to say about what went down this weekend. We saw some good. We saw some really bad.
My first. What's his name? Kalen DeBoer's gotta go. This guy is horrible. I mean, Diesel, I don't care if his buyout is $170 million. Kalen DeBoer is a horrible football coach. I mean, what are we doing?
He's getting his ass kicked in the press conferences now. Have you heard this
Yeah,
audio
that's bad.
of
Real bad.
a reporter? I'm going to play this for you, Cole. I know we have a minute here. I'm not going to go play the whole thing, just the first 10 seconds or so. But a reporter asks him about the week of preparation. Here's what he said.
You mentioned the great week before the game. Just how much do you self-scout the preparation before games? And are there times as a coach where maybe you notice during the week that things might not be going the way that you want them to?
You said, what do you mean, great week?
Yeah, a great week. You said a great week of preparation.
For this week, you're saying, or are you referring to last
going
week?
up to Florida State before that game.
I said that.
You said that, yeah, before.
That's embarrassing.
Dear God,
That is
Kalen
embarrassing.
DeBoer.
Kalen
Oh my
DeBoer's got to
God.
go. He's terrible. Bama has completely lost their identity and who
Yeah.
they once were under Nick Saban.
I
That's
mean,
my
guys
first
were
one.
dancing. They were smiling even when they were losing. That Nick Saban would not tolerate that. That guy would be working at a Waffle House
And the
right now.
bad thing is, Diesel, the fact of the matter is, they're just not good.
No.
There was nothing inspiring about that football game on Saturday. What's yours?
My first one, Cole, is that Florida State's going to win the ACC this year.
I
They're
like
going to
that.
win the ACC.
That's an
I mean,
overreaction.
yeah, I mean, Alabama played badly, but come on, they got talented guys on that roster. Florida State just flat out kicked their ass. And they look good. Tommy Castellanos looked good playing for Florida State. And he backed up all that smack talk all off season.
He did.
Now, if they can play to that standard week in and week out, they're going to win this conference.
He did. He looked good. They look good. Again, let's see, right? I like
Florida
that.
State jumped from not ranked all the way up to, I don't have the rankings open in front of me. They moved up to 14th.
How about
So they went from not ranked to 14th.
It's a big jump.
Yep.
Big jump. Second overreaction. I remember a lot of people, let me scratch out the word people and put idiots. I remember a lot of idiots, Diesel, who always complained about Tony Elliott. Tony Elliott's the problem in Clemson. And there were even people on local radio stations. Tony Elliott's the problem in Clemson. How did those people look? Now, my second overreaction, Garrett Riley is a major downgrade from Tony Elliott. If you complained about Tony Elliott, I'm sorry, but at least those offenses could score against SEC teams.
Yeah, I mean, I was questioning last week, 2 weeks ago, with some of our different Clemson guests. I'm like, do we think Garrett Riley's going to be around after this season, or is he going to be taking jobs at other schools? I don't know that anybody's going to give him a chance.
I know.
But nobody's going to want that guy.
I know.
I mean, now at this point, he may have to go to a G5 program to prove himself. Either that or he's staying at Clemson forever because, Dabo, he's loyal to the guys that he likes. Cole, here's a fact. I don't know that this is a massive overreaction, but college football, good God, needs a preseason or a week one FCS matchup for everybody across the board. But at the same time, it would be awful for the game because these gigantic matchups in week one are so much fun, even if they don't go the way that we think they're going to go, even if favorites lose games. We need some sort of a preseason matchup, but God, it would take away so much from the game if we had it.
No, I'm with you. I've got two more for you. My third, Bill Belichick after last night will be buried in the ACC hills somewhere and will become irrelevant. I just don't think Bill Belichick's name will be mentioned much more this season. They're not going to play anybody. Like, they have some meh opponents. They don't have any more big games, Diesel. That's the thing. They're not going to be on a big stage again. So
well, there's already, recruits coming out and kind of putting cracks in the dam about Bill Belichick's recruiting process.
Ooh.
You know, they were saying that, hey, we were invited to North Carolina to meet with Coach Belichick, and they were sitting around for like 30 minutes or an hour, and Coach Belichick never shows up. And so they're talking about how, I mean, I get it. When you're recruiting, when you're bringing in 70 portal guys this year, it's impossible to spend FaceTime with all of them. I know that they're all excited to get to meet Bill Belichick and shake his hand, but it's just an impossibility. You can't do it all yourself. And that to me says recruits are getting wise and portal guys are getting wise to the fact that this whole Belichick guy and all this is cracked up to be.
I remember with ACC kickoff when I asked one of their defensive backs, I looked at him and I said, do you think Bill Belichick can do it at the college level? And he looked at me and he said, do you? And I honestly told him, I said, I don't think he can. I said, no disrespect, I don't think he can. And I was so nervous. And I was thinking, oh, that guy's going to prove me wrong. They're going to go out and win 100. But it didn't look good.
When the game went as badly for North Carolina as it did, it's really hard to go back and look and see what was execution and what was scheme. Were they lined up correctly? Were they doing creative things? Or do they just have guys that can't catch the football and can't hang on to the football and just hand it over to him, basically?
It looked bad. So
there you go. Those are our overreactions.
Let me throw this one more out there real quick.
One more.
I don't think it was a great opening weekend of college football. Texas, Ohio State was kind of boring. Clemson, LSU was kind of boring. South Carolina, I didn't think it was a great weekend. Maybe that's not an overreaction.
When we come back, it is your opportunity, Tolos. Let's fill up those phone lines. We got 8 of them. Let's fill them all up. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Your first opportunity to overreact on week 1 of college football. Next. Well, I know you've got a lot to say because you've all been all over your message boards and Facebook and Twitter for the last 24, 36, 48, 72 hours, however long it's been since your team played in week number 1. Now's your chance to call in and overreact at 844-326-3663. What have you got to say about what you saw this weekend? You can gas up your own team. You can rip on the other guy, whatever you want to do. Let's talk about it right here on the Fan Upstate. Let's go to the phone lines. And first up, we got Dale on the line. Dale, welcome to the show.
Hello, my guys. How are you?
What up, Dale?
My overreaction is Jerry Jones is a football genius.
Say that again, please.
Jerry Jones is a football genius.
Okay.
Are you sure you know what the word genius means?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that.
So hear me out, okay?
Okay.
If Micah Parsons is really going to have to take an epidural before each game this season, how long is that fact going to last?
I'm not a doctor, but I will tell you, I didn't believe there was an injury to begin with, Dale.
I'm just seeing that I heard that he's probably going to have to take a shot, an epidural on game day. And I thought for the longest time the epidurals were for women that were delivering babies. Okay? So correct me if I'm wrong there. But if he pulled a Bill Belichick move and got rid of somebody before they lost their value, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it myself. 2 first-rounders and a nose tackle. Hey, I'd have been the best we could have got. I would have loved for him to go out of conference, but hey, it is what it is.
Do you really believe that, Dale?
Absolutely not.
That's what I thought. But it does sound good, though, right?
We traded away a Hall of Famer, man. Why? I don't care if it's back with Forrest Gump's back. I don't care. You don't get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Anything else, Dale?
No,
You're
man.
upset. It's okay. Thanks for the call, Dale.
Thanks, Dale. It was funny. We had 3 Ds on the line: Dale, Dewey, and Dan. Sounds like a law firm. Or
Yeah,
something.
really educated law firm.
Jerkwater, Iowa. Let's go to the phone lines and bring on Dewey, who's got something to say about this weekend. Dewey, the floor is yours.
Yes, first of all, I think this is a big overreaction. I have to agree with you, Diesel, because we all knew South Carolina was not going to play 100% football. They half did it, and they won by half doing it, and that's about what they did. Sellers was okay. I mean, when he threw the ball, when he could throw the ball. Other than that, it was just a mediocre win, and that's okay. It could have been worse. They could have lost. It was headed that way, but they pulled it out in the fourth quarter and did their thing, and they won. So everyone who's hating on Diesel, you need to shut your mouth. You don't know ball.
I'm going to hire Dewey to be my personal online bully blocker.
What a good day it is, Diesel.
How about that? Dewey, do you charge much? Can I afford you to do this job for me all season?
I have to think about that. But secondly,
how's a 12-pack of beer a week?
It has to be 25 packs.
God. They don't sell them in 25 packs, Dewey. They sell them in 24 packs.
Well, 24. And secondly, I got Clemson. Dabo, my message for you, Dabo, you need to go lay down somewhere. Yeah, I'm criticizing you, so get over it. Everyone else is criticizing you. You're a joke, Dabo. You did an orange thing. You made everyone think you're going to win a national championship. You're not winning nothing, Dabo. You embarrassed yourself out there with LSU on your home field. You're an embarrassment to the ACC. And out with the rise of Florida State again, yeah, you're not winning that game. You're going 7-5, Dabo. And then the cries for you to be fired finally will happen. They'll probably start happening now, but luckily you got Troy, so now y'all can look like y'all are going to win something after y'all beat Troy 50-0. Alabama's perch is over. Alabama, you suck. and that other guy needs to get fired immediately. Either Florida State's back or Florida or Alabama's just that horrible. And what did y'all do during practice last week, Alabama? You suck. You got rolled on this weekend, Alabama. One more thing.
One more.
Belichick, you're a joke. I have faith in you, and you're a joke. You're a gimmick. The gimmick's over. Last night was an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment of college football. You need to take your girlfriend and you need to get out of college football because Tim Brady is not coming to rescue you. Oh,
Thanks, Dewey. Oh my gosh,
Tim Brady, is he like that movie? The new.
That's what I was wondering, Tim.
What's the movie called?
How about that?
With the guy that played. He wanted to do the Mrs. Doubtfire for college football.
I don't know. I'm not a movie guy.
Is it Chad Powers? I think that's the name of the movie.
Dewey needs another hobby. That was rough, Dewey. That was rough. Thanks for the call, though. As always, we appreciate you. What's your overreaction, Tolos? 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663.
It's not a movie. It's a TV show called Chad Powers, coming to Hulu. And it's about a disgraced college football player who gets run out of the game, who then puts on a bunch of facial prosthetics and goes back into the game and starts playing college football again. So I don't know when that thing starts to Tuesday, September 30th is when they're going to unveil the first episode. How about that? They should have released it from before the college football season. Now people are going to watch real football, not movie football. Let's go to the phone lines again and get to Dan B. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey guys, yeah, my first overreaction is the fantasy football draft. I don't know how it was in all three leagues, Cole, but that auto picking was just lame.
Yeah, what happened to the Tolos showing up for the draft, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the first five before I was the fifth pick, and the first four were all auto draft, but we had to wait a minute and a half before each one even came in.
I'm
and
with
then
you.
One of the guys, whoever that Josh's scary team, I swear he kept logging in and then just sitting on the 130 and letting it auto draft, and then he'd come back. So every single time I'm waiting on him to for a minute and 30 when he was right next to me, either going up or down. I don't remember, but also Cole, I swear I saw you make your first pick, and then the 13th pick of the draft was an auto pick. You waited the whole.
Listen, Dan. I had 3 leagues to go back and forth between, so I might have missed a couple.
Yeah, you always had 2 picks in a row. You just go bink bink.
I know. I'm special though, Dan.
Yeah, just go bink bink, Cole.
Bink bink.
Yeah, my other reaction is I love your comment, Cole, about going to the Circle K and getting the roller dog after you score your touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean, because that's the exact question I was having. Is like, what is the amount of time you must hold on to the ball once you've actually gone out of bounds?
That's what I'm saying.
It's not a catch anymore. And it's like, no, that's bullshit. Sorry.
Okay, Dan. Hit it twice, Cole. Hit it twice. There you go.
BS. Say
that's
BS.
Dan.
BS.
Yeah, that's BS. No, I think it should be legal. You could go up and alley oop the ball in over the goalpost, and that should still count as a catch.
Thanks, Dan.
I'm with you. I know it's a dumb rule.
Hey, Dan, how many unique players do we have in the Upset Picks Challenge now?
186.
186.
Wow. And we're doing Upset Picks recap at 6 p.m.
Yes, we will.
6 p.m.
Yes, we will. Appreciate you, Dan.
All right.
Dropping the BS on us.
All right, let's go to Mr. Gio Lopez is great himself. Tom in Somerville. Tom, what have you got to say about yourself?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Tom.
I don't know about y'all, but I had a fantastic weekend. Okay. First off, the Gamecocks won. Well, even before the Gamecocks won, yours truly moved to 2-0 in the Upset Picks Challenge.
Tom's crushing it.
Hey, it's a good year. And, not only did the Gamecocks win, but like I've been saying all summer, Cade Klubnik sucks, and he was on full display Saturday night. So, Diesel, I hate that I have to tell you this, but it doesn't look like you're going to get a free steak dinner this year because, Cade Klubnik is not winning the Heisman.
My overreaction this weekend, it's pretty simple. Lenore Sellers, as long as the Gamecocks go 9-3, Lenore Sellers will win the Heisman Trophy.
Wow.
Wow.
Go ahead and write that down. Tom said if the Gamecocks go 9-3 or better, Lenore Sellers will win the Heisman Trophy. He is going to be that good. But I also want to give a shout out to another quarterback that is not from the state of South Carolina, and I do not know how to say his name, but I stayed up till about 1 a.m. Sunday morning watching Cal and Oregon State play. I don't know how to say the kid's name, and he is not getting enough credit. But that quarterback at the University of California is an absolute stud. And, with the ACC the way it is, you look at Cal's schedule. I got real bored Sunday at 1 a.m., so I started looking at all this, okay? The quarterback at California, he's the new DJU as far as names go. Good luck trying to pronounce it. He was dropping dimes all up and down the field on Oregon State. The way Cal's schedule sets up, guys, they might be this year's SMU. I'm just going to throw it out there. So just before, we get to October and everybody says, where'd this Cal team come from?
You called it.
I'm just saying, if that quarterback stays healthy, they could be a serious threat in the ACC because they don't play any of the good teams. They don't play Clemson. They don't play Miami. I don't think they play Georgia Tech, and they don't play Florida State. Like they've got a perfect path to get there. So just wanted to put that out there. I had a great weekend. The catheter idea, although the doctor wouldn't let me get one, I should have just done it anyways because I think I left an indention on my couch after all weekend, and I'm not as mad as Dewey is, but I will say, Clemson fans, we tried to tell you all summer, Cade ain't it, and he proved that on Saturday night. Go Gamecocks! Can't wait to get to 2-0 this week.
Thanks, Tom. Now, Cole, how would you like to be Deshaun Foster this weekend after having made the decision to bring in Nico and let Joey Aguilar go, and then watch him absolutely torch Syracuse and look really good doing it, and your quarterback, Nico, looked awful playing for you?
Didn't look great. Didn't look great. So, I mean, that's the portal. That's the portal era that we now live in, man. It's wild.
Let's go to the phone lines once again and bring in Nashty. Welcome to the show, Nashty.
Hey, guys. Hate to follow two of your best callers, but I had a question.
Two of the best, maybe not two of the brightest. We'll give you that much.
Yeah, but Dewey and Tom are gold. All right. So my overreaction is Gamecocks offensive line once again struggling. I hope that it's coaching, coach them up, get them together, get them to gel. Since they hadn't practiced together a whole lot, played together a whole lot, but it's just an ongoing thing. I mean, that's just the biggest weak link in the Gamecocks. It seems like every single year. They don't get that together. I hate to see Lenora Sellers get hurt. Question was, I know I won both of my last pick challenges. How do I find an update on that?
Nashty, we have posted the current standings at the Fan Upstate on Twitter.
What's your name?
On Twitter. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, it's there waiting on you.
Right.
Go check it out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nash.
Nash. Appreciate you,
All right,
man.
appreciate you.
I will say real quick, though, he's got a fair point on the offensive line. Do you hope it gets better for South Carolina? Sure, you hope, but like hope in one hand and the other. I mean, I don't know. I think South Carolina has good players up front, but I just don't know that the right ones are out there. I'll tell you that. I will say, though, to Nashty's point, I think that the offensive line is the biggest concern. I know the defense at times didn't look good. I think the defense will be fine. I really do. They've got players back there.
Yeah.
Offensive line does concern me a little
Obviously,
bit.
you want the offensive line to get better because you don't want Lenore Sellers running for his life all season. And let's be real, Virginia Tech's defense is buns compared to what he's going to face in the SEC.
Yeah, you want to see that line get better.
Let's go to the phone lines and bring in Jersey Joe on this overreaction Monday on a Tuesday. Joe, what's up?
Gentlemen, how we doing today?
What up,
Great.
Joe?
1-0 feeling.
Same old. Hey, I don't know if this is an overreaction. It's like one of those OMG reactions. Where did this Tarleton State come from and beat Army in double overtime?
Is that Frank's team?
Where are they from?
They're from Texas.
Are they?
Tarleton State is in Texas.
I never heard of them before.
No. Yeah. I think they're FCS and have been eyeballing a move up to the group of 5.
Wow.
Right?
I was like, wow. That's a reaction right there.
Is it that, or is just this Army football team not very good?
Well, in the past couple of years, they've been, 9-10 wins,
One would think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had never heard of them until last week, Joe.
And then, and what Tom had mentioned about that kid from California, he's a lefty too. And like I said, like what Tom said, he was just dropping dimes 20, 30 yards down the field on a rollout, no less.
Tom might be right. You hate to say it, but he might be right.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, you said you had the results on Twitter, right?
Correct. At the Fan Upstate on Twitter.
What if we don't do that Twitter thing?
Just go to twitter.com/thefanupstate. You don't have to have an account. It's just
Facebook?
a website.
Facebook?
We haven't put it on the Facebook page, but we can. We've always just put it on Twitter.
Can we put it on Facebook?
We can do it.
Do you have Facebook, Jersey Joe?
I'm an old fart. I don't do that stuff,
You don't do Facebook either.
Facebook. Do you have a phone?
Oh, I got Facebook, yeah, but I ain't got no Twitter. I ain't got no Instagram.
Well, we'll put it on Facebook. How about that? We'll put it on Facebook as well. There you go. Like the Fan Upstate.
That,
if you haven't done it yet, Joe, make sure you hit like on the page too. All right.
Yes, for sure.
All right.
Bam. Look at that.
Thanks,
Look
Joe.
at that. Solving world problems one segment at a time. One segment at a time. We've got time for one more on this overreaction Monday
Bringing
on a
up
Tuesday.
the rear.
Bringing up the rear is Madcraft, who goes by 9 different names at a time, but we do believe it's Madcraft. What is your overreaction, Madcraft?
I've got a real special one for the little ramen fella that ain't showed his face so far this week.
Did you say
But here it
ramen?
goes, y'all.
Like noodles?
The little ramen fella. You know who I'm talking about.
No,
Here we go.
don't.
Y'all ready?
We don't know who you're talking
All
about.
right. Well, you'll know here in a second.
Okay.
In Miami's heat, the Hurricanes rise with fire in their hearts and storm in their eyes. Notre Dame rolls in, all proud and bold, but the Canes are fierce, their story untold. The field is set, the crowds a roar. Orange and green, they're ready for more.
Oh.
With a snap and a clash, the battle's begun. Miami storm surges, they're second to none. The Irish charge hard, their gold helmets gleam, but the Canes dance swift like a tropical dream. A pass soars high, a touchdown's the call. The Hurricanes thunder, they never will fall. From the waters they come with power and might, under those Miami bright stadium lights. Notre Dame falters, their luck runs dry, as the Canes stampede with a victorious cry. The score ticks up, the fans go wild. Miami's the champ, the gridiron's child. When the whistle blows, the tale's been spun. Hurricanes triumph, and Notre Dame's done.
Did you write that yourself, Madcraft, or did you use Chat GPT? Oh, he hung up. He hung up the phone.
That means he definitely used
Scotty
ChatGPT.
from BMW calling him out saying he used Chat
So
GPT.
Diesel, he said rhyming fella. He was talking about the leprechaun.
Rhyming fella. I thought he said ramen fella. I was like, what are you talking about?
Ramen fella. He was talking about, he was asking where the leprechaun of Lyman was after that butt whooping.
Leprechaun of Lyman. Are you going to respond to that? Or are you hiddly ho scared to call in and talk to Madcraft?
I think he's probably scared.
Yeah?
I think he's scared. Yeah, it was a good performance, by the way, by Miami. Speaking of Miami, Diesel, that's the question. We continue the college football talk. And I ask the question to you as well as the Tolos out there, is the state of Florida back? Talk about Miami winning over the weekend. Florida. And Florida State taking down Bama. The state of Florida, are they back? We answer that next. So I asked the question during the last segment, Diesel, with Alabama falling to Florida State over the weekend. It was a pretty good weekend for the state of Florida. Miami got a big win over Notre Dame. Florida, they weren't in a marquee matchup, we know, right? And Florida State beats Alabama over the weekend. Obviously, we've got to get into that one because that one's huge. We've talked a lot of Clemson and South Carolina on the show today already. But yes, no, somewhere in between, you, Tolo's out there as well as Diesel. Is the state of Florida back?
Well, they all played pretty good this weekend. Miami won, Florida State won, UCF won, just barely, by the way, over Jacksonville State, 17-10, the return of the Scott Frost era. They needed 14 fourth quarter points to get the win. But hey, shout out to them. I don't know what other schools play in the state of South Florida won big. How about that? I mean, everybody in the Sunshine State's winning this weekend.
Winning, man. It's back. Obviously, the biggest of the weekend was Florida State knocking off Bama. And as I said, Diesel, we've talked a lot of South Carolina on the show today, a lot of Clemson on the show today. But you know what we do have to admit, what I have to admit, is when you and I talked about this Florida State-Alabama game, even with Melissa Level of Ingles Markets and other people who picked Florida State, we laughed. We thought it was cute. We thought it was funny that people were picking Florida State to win the game, and maybe they were picking them because they were a fan. Maybe not. Maybe they were experts and they knew more than we did. However, I will tell you, Florida State beating Alabama, in my mind, and I know I might get pushback on this, I don't think it's that big of a message. I don't think this is your Pawpaw's Alabama team anymore. I don't think this is your Mama's Alabama team that she grew up. Yes, it's a big win. Yes, I'm not taking anything away from Florida State. Not at all. But I just don't know that this is like if this were 5 years ago and Florida State were this bad and they were to take down Nick Saban's Alabama, it'd be huge. But Diesel, let's be honest, Kalen DeBoer's Alabama is not the same as Nick Saban's Alabama. And they lost to Vanderbilt a season ago. They also lost to a bad Michigan team. Am I wrong for maybe downplaying this win and not giving Florida State enough credit?
Look, we got to give Mike Norvell a lot of credit for taking 23 transfer portal guys, most of whom still can't even find their way around the locker rooms, and taking them to beat Alabama. You still got some of Nick Saban's guys on this team. You got really talented guys. And I don't know. I don't know if Kalen DeBoer can turn it around. I don't know if he's already too far gone in the minds of most Alabama fans. I mean, I was texting a couple of my friends who are Alabama fans over the weekend and asking, like, how big is the check that you've already written to Alabama to get Kalen DeBoer fired and pay for that buyout? Because I guarantee you they're already thinking about it down there. But Mike Norvell deserves a lot of credit. He put together a good game plan, took down Alabama when they still had some mystique. By the end of the season, Alabama may recover from this. They may end up 7-5 like some pundits are saying they're going to go, in which case maybe the win doesn't look quite as impressive, but who cares? It doesn't matter. You beat Alabama.
You beat Alabama. That's a big deal. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying it's not a good win. It is a good win. I just don't know that it sends as big of shockwaves as some might think. Again, Alabama, they've still got 5-star recruits. They're still a good program, but they're not a great program anymore, Diesel. Like, I know you may say, Cole, pump the brakes on that. But Alabama in the last year, we talked about it in the very first segment of the 4 o'clock hour with Clemson, Diesel. Same thing here. Dabo Swinney talks about the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? And all the ACC championships, the overall record against the Big Ten, the overall record against the SEC. But what did we talk about at 4 o'clock? All fans care about is what have you done for me lately? And yes, a win over Alabama is a big win. But I just look at the what have you done for me lately aspect of this conversation, and I just don't feel, maybe I'm dead wrong, as a college football fan, after watching what Bama did or didn't do last year, Diesel, I just don't feel as enthralled about that upset as I should. Maybe
there's no killer instinct though with this Alabama team right now, and it seems like their discipline, which we all knew under Nick Saban, was second to none. Their discipline is gone. That's just not the kind of program that Kalen DeBoer runs. Think about this: he's lost 5 games in a season plus 1 game. He only lost 3 in 2 full seasons at Washington. He only lost 6 in 2 full seasons at Fresno State. He's going to pass that number this year at Alabama. Maybe it's time we stop promoting these guys so lightning fast before we have a sense of who and what they are from program to program to program.
So here's a wild stat. I retweeted this at the Cole Bryson over the weekend, Diesel. This is from Brett McMurphy, right? You ready for this? Tolos, are you ready for this stat? Since 2007, in games when Alabama was favored by at least 14 points, Nick Saban was 131-2. That's unbelievable. Since 2007, in games where Bama was favored by 14 or more points, Nick Saban was 131-2, meaning he beat the teams he was supposed to beat. Kalen DeBoer is 4-4. He's 500. He's 500. I know the sample size
in games
is not
where they're
the same.
favored by 14 points
or more.
Yeah, that's nuts.
In games where they're favored by at least 14 points, Nick Saban just had an exceptional record. And again, that'll never be replicated, right? 131-2 will never be replicated, but still, Kalen DeBoer's start, Diesel, like, this guy's got to turn it around. I mean, he's 4-4. In his tenure at Bama, when they've been favored by 14 or more, this guy, he just doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean?
Well,
he doesn't feel like he's the answer.
It's a gigantic thing to try to tell somebody, hey, you've got to match or do better than Nick Saban, right? That's what Alabama fans expect. That's what they're paying him a tremendous amount of money for. He's going to win this weekend. They host ULM, and then they host Wisconsin. And I don't know a lot about this Wisconsin team this year, but they're going to go into that bye. They're probably going to be 2-1.
They will be.
But then they go on the road to Georgia. And can you imagine, Cole, if Georgia beats the brakes off of Kalen DeBoer and they're sitting at 2-2 with losses to what their fans consider to be an inferior Florida State on the road, and then a blowout loss, watching Georgia continue to outpace and start to pull away from you, that fan base is going to be fit to be tied. Now, nobody outside of Tuscaloosa is feeling bad for him. It's just the way of the world, right? Empires rise and empires fall.
So here's what I did. I did something fun. Diesel, let's see, 4 minutes ago when we started having this conversation, 4 minutes ago, I texted a friend of mine who played at the University of Alabama. Okay. This is a guy that played football. Let's see, on the exact years, Diesel, I'm not exactly sure. But this is a friend of mine who played football for the University of Alabama. I want to say late 90s. Okay. And I, 4 minutes ago, sent 3 words. I said, trust in DeBoer, ? That's all. I hadn't talked to him this weekend. I figured he needed a couple of days, right? Big Bama guy. His exact response were, this is somebody who played for Bama now. His response after asking if he trusts in DeBoer, hell no. 2 words. That's it. So, like, I'm not saying that the entire Bama fan base has already turned on him, but I will tell you, I do believe that it's becoming more and more. I don't believe that DeBoer's the answer. And I know this was a Florida conversation, but we're having this conversation because Florida State beat Bama. I just don't know that to your point, Diesel, they'll be 2-1. But guess what? They have after that 2-1, more SEC teams, right?
At Georgia, Vandy, at Missouri, Tennessee, at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, at Auburn.
There's 4 possible losses in there. They could be a 5-loss team.
Yeah.
They could be a 4 or 5-loss team. Somebody brought it up on the text line. I think it was Bo from Greer. He said, I took Florida State, and I've been saying exactly what you're saying. I honestly believe that that Bama will finish the season unranked. So let me ask you that. Fun scenario. Last year, Diesel, they missed the college football playoff, right? Missed it. This year, if they were to finish unranked, $70 million, whatever the buyout, I think it's $70 million. How long does it take? 1 year, 2 years?
How long does it take to raise the money? About an hour and a half.
Fair. How long does it take for this to continue, though? How much more do they give this guy if he just goes?
So let's follow that to its logical conclusion. You raise the money because you raise the money and you fire him. It feels good. Ding dong, the dumbass is gone, right? Well, who are you going to hire? Who are you going to hire? Are you going to try to go get Ryan Day from Ohio State? You're certainly not going to go hire James Franklin because Alabama fans aren't going to accept him as the head coach. So the only thing you can do is try to hire away a coach that is a playoff caliber coach.
I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Which is exactly what they did when they hired Kalen DeBoer away. Maybe who's
I'm with you. Diesel, I'll tell you this. The only acceptable answer I think Bama fans will be okay with is Urban Meyer.
Oh, God. Please, no.
I think that's the only acceptable answer they'd be okay
with. Maybe Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State?
Nah.
And you think you give that guy a bunch of resources and money? I don't know. I mean, they're certainly not going after Dabo now.
It's hard shoes, man. It's hard shoes. Look, I mean, to your point, DeBoer's a good coach, but unfortunately, the standard that was set, the standard was set, and they kept that standard, Diesel, for so long, they just hadn't met it. Now,
are you sure it's not just that Ty Simpson wasn't him?
Maybe Ty Simpson was on the roster for a long time, right? If he was him, why didn't he start before now? He's been on the roster for, 4 years? Going back to the final point on these teams from Florida, we know Florida didn't have a marquee matchup. Miami did. Miami looked really good against Notre Dame. Carson Beck looked really good, in my opinion. Diesel, Florida State, to your point, Tommy C looked good. They look like a good football team. You overreacted and said Florida State could win the ACC back at 445. How far do we believe Florida State is right now, realistically, not overreacting from the top of the ACC? I don't know that it's too terribly far, is it?
No, if given
one game.
Yeah, given a one game sample size.
One game.
We still think Louisville's pretty good. We still think Georgia Tech's kind of a sleeper. Not like amazing, but a sleeper. Clemson is still Clemson. We know that they're loaded with 4 and 5 star guys. Maybe the LSU game was a blip. Maybe they do to Troy what they did to my App State Mountaineers last year and put up 66 points and blow the door. People are going to say, "Oh, Clemson is back."
Yeah.
See, they fixed the problems.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida State, until they prove it otherwise, is to me probably third in the ACC with a very distinct opportunity to jump from 3 to 1. I mean, it could happen. I don't know how consistent they can be. Maybe Tommy Castellanos is that next Cam Ward type of guy. Not saying that he's Cam Ward, but the next Cam Ward type of guy, that next story of a guy that, is pretty good at a lower level school who just doesn't have the athletes around him. You put him in the right spot, the right opportunity, and he flourishes.
Diesel, you asked the question earlier when Madcraft called in with his poem. You asked, where's Leprechaun of Lyman?
Yeah.
Guess what? The Leprechaun of Lyman has made an appearance.
He's found his shillelaghs.
Do we have time for the Leprechaun of Lyman here?
We always have time for the Leprechaun of Lyman. Responding to Madcraft. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, boys. Now, I was actually working, so I didn't hear Madcraft's poem. Thankfully, I got a kind message from Diesel to go back and listen to what he said. So, I've got a message for Madcraft. Incidentally, I'm surprised they let second-rate poets on the air. Now, don't get so hoity-toity, you big fat duck. For you and your team, I don't give a very unkind thing to say. I think we'll meet again. And next time you'll know that the truly better team is wearing blue and gold. And you'll think twice before cursing the name of that grand and powerful good old Notre Dame. Woo-hoo!
Wow.
And he's gone.
That wasn't bad for a loss, right?
I didn't know that leprechauns had jobs.
Yeah, they do.
In this economy,
they do. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. That was funny. I didn't know what he had the duck rhyme.
Madcraft says that the leprechaun of Lyman still needs his ornithology lesson.
I just wonder who's using Chat GPT for these things and who's not. I mean, is Leprechaun using his Madcraft? Somebody's got to be using it, right? I mean, all of a sudden,
are you saying that Madcraft doesn't understand iambic pentameter?
Yeah, I am saying that because I don't understand.
It's a haiku for me and a haiku for you.
Well, Leprechaun of Lyman, good to hear from you. Good to hear that you're still alive.
When we come back, Cole, Ryan Day's body part almost broke the internet this weekend. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know what we're talking about, things got wild just online in Columbus. Plus, we have the audio that Atolo asked us if we've heard. Brian Kelly throwing smoke at Dabo. We'll play it for you and react next on the Fan Upstate. Well, I'll admit, Cole, the internet almost had me after Saturday's Ohio State-Texas game, because there's a very convincing picture. Turns out it's fake.
Shocker.
Where it appeared that Ryan Day was a freaky you-know-what. Where it appeared that Ryan Day had a nipple piercing.
Oh.
And, I mean, this is football, right? Guys are out there, they're running, they're amped up. You know what happens when you get amped up? You know what happens when your wife gets amped up? You know what I mean? And, guys in athletic shirts are almost always nipping. And it looked very convincing. And I showed it to my wife. She's like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. It had me for a minute. But that's the world we live in now, right? You got rival fan bases who are bagging on each other, creating fake photos that go viral, and that's all it takes. All it takes is somebody to believe it. Now we got a message in here on the stream, multiple messages from Scotty from BMW that kind of cross the line, Scotty. I mean, we may have to consider banning you from the stream, because Scotty says that piercing is hands down one of the most painful piercings you can get.
Ow.
He says, I've had several and do still have some nipple piercings. He goes, you ever see somebody with just one? That's why, because it hurts that bad. He says it's not even as painful as the famous Prince Albert piercing.
Wow. Thank you for that, Scotty.
Yeah, that's
Appreciate
an image
that.
I'll never be able to get out of my head.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I don't even know how to transition away from that, because you got me discombobulated, Scotty. Here's the audio, in case you haven't heard it yet, of Brian Kelly talking trash about Dabo after the game. Check this out.
We dominated him in the second half. So he's either a really good grader for, giving himself a 58, or he's a really hard grader on us, or he didn't see the second half, which that might be the case. He might not have wanted to see the second half. So again, look, this is all past. We're
talking trash.
I like it. Talk your junk, man.
Real generous about grading his own team, real tough on us. Maybe he didn't see the second half.
I don't mind the trash talking if you can back it up. I really don't. I think it's good for the sport. And you know what? Like, Dabo Swinney's somebody who invites the trash talk. When you get up there and you say things like you do, you invite that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not going to go on a 20-minute tangent and a 20-minute rant in the next segment about Dabo's press conferences, especially the one today, and how he acts and how he paints everybody else to be stupid if they ever criticize his program and anything like that. But I will say it's a real thing. It's a real thing, Diesel. I'll read you this text. Can I read you a text?
Yeah.
Buddy of mine today texted me. I'm not going to give you his name. Diehard Clemson fan. He said, what'd you think of Dabo's presser? My response: same old, belittling everyone for criticism. How dare you criticize Dabo and his program, holier than thou? His response, again, diehard Clemson fan here, he said he did call Cade out in a way, but yeah, I agree. Here's where I am. I think there are a lot of smart Clemson fans out there, but I also think the majority, Diesel, of Clemson fans out there, including Clemson media, are just too scared to say what they actually believe. They all laugh and they all giggle and they all get along with anything that Dabo says when he criticizes them for saying or having criticisms toward the program. Ultimately, though, going back to that audio, Dabo sets himself up for it. Plain and simple. He does. What I set myself up for was a loss this weekend by picking the Owls. Who? That's right. I was not even close to hitting my upset pick. Thanks, John Dog, for reminding me on the Hub City Spartan Brothers text line who's in the lead, the leaderboard, and what we did right and what we did wrong. We'll tell you who's leading and who's way behind back there with me in the Upset Picks Challenge. That's next. Well, how'd you do, Tolos? What am I talking about? Upset Picks Challenge is rolling on. You might be up near the top, like Bo from Greer, or you might be like me and you're not even on the graphic.
Oh.
It's hour number 4 of the show. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Welcome into Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge. Guess what? We were off yesterday, so tomorrow the Upset Picks Challenge, just like that, is already back.
Resumes.
And if you want to see where you are in the leaderboard, in the standings, you can right now at thefanupstate.com, our Twitter page and Facebook page. You can go there. Make sure you like the page while you're there and see where you are. As I'm scrolling down, I don't see my name anywhere, Diesel. I do see you with 2 points. Back in 47th spot, 47th position, if you will.
And you made fun of me for going for the 3-point hit
I know.
in week
At least
0.
at least you're on the board, right? I'm a second half team. I'll bounce back. I'm really so bad at this challenge. I don't like it. I don't want to do it anymore. But that's where we are. It's tough. It's so tough. I'm just not good at it. And I don't like things I'm not good at.
Are you Dewey? Because you sounded an awful lot like Dewey.
I am. How'd you know? So, at the very top, 16 and a half points, which is really good, by the way.
Yeah, it's good after 2 weeks.
Really good after 2 weeks. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Tolos. Bo from Greer, Philip Rollins, Mark Elodux, Kane's Transplant, USC Justin, and the one and only Melissa Level of Ingles Markets. Can you believe that? Melissa is at the very top
and
of the
we
list.
all laughed at her.
Oh, we thought she was crazy.
We're like, well, you're just a fan that's picking your own team.
You're not going to hit Florida State. But guess what? There she is.
My God.
There she is. And the list goes long after that. So congratulations to those 6 Tolos who were tied for first. But 15 and a half Diesel is not a bad place to be either. You've got Gamecock Tim at 15 and a half points.
That's it.
That's pretty good. By the way, he's all by himself right there at 15 and a half. He's all by himself. 13 and a half is where we are next. And there are a lot of Tolos with 13 and a half points right now. A lot. Tim D and Easley. Puppy Monkey Baby. Rebel Vol 51. Jersey Joe. Joey Bruton. John Dog. Zach Breeze. Trey in Kentucky. John Rhodes. Rob Brown. Tolo Skrilla. Justin L. Jay Butane's wife. And Lee Corso, of all people, are at 13 and a half points. So, well, look. Tolos are stepping up. I mean, they're doing well in this thing. I'm not, but other Tolos are. Diesel.
Should we, because Lee Corso is not going to be on game day anymore making these picks.
Yeah.
Should we
X him?
No, not X him.
Oh.
In an honorary way, freeze him at 13 and a half points.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean, like an asterisk, right? Because
not a bad idea.
Because by the end of the season, Lee Corso would finish with 0 points.
Hey, unless
we can get him on the show.
You can get his phone number. Think right now real hard in your head. Like close your eyes like I'm doing.
Know?
Rub your eyes. Do like I'm doing. Think, close, rub your eyes, and think. Who do you know that would have Lee Corso's phone number?
Josh Pate?
Would Josh Pate, though, even
I'm
have
sure
it?
Josh Pate has it.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You're talking about Lee Corso.
Josh is the highest up in Gary Stoken probably does. And we have Gary Stoken's number.
I would say Josh Pate doesn't have it.
Oh,
I don't think Josh Pate would.
Should I text him right now and ask him? I don't want the number. Just want to know if he has it.
Fun trivia question we're having on the show. Cole says no. You say yes. Gary Stoken. Here's the deal with Gary Stoken, Diesel. So Gary Stoken, the Peach Bowl Incorporated CEO, he might not have it, but guess what? If Gary Stoken wanted Lee Corso's number, he could get it very quickly, right? I don't know. That's a good nominee, though. He may not have it, but I promise you he could get somebody. That's a really good question. Amazon guy, look who it is.
Whoa.
We have been looking for
from
Amazon guy for 18 weeks, hadn't we? He just texted into the show and said, dang, I missed week 1. Amazon guy, where have you been? We have been doing this for 2 weeks now.
How do you miss this thing, Amazon guy? Like, did you just forget about us? You've only been participating in this challenge for years. Did it just slip your mind?
I mean, he won the thing or was close to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious. So, Amazon guy, glad to have you back. But that's a good question, Diesel. Who would have Lee Corso's number? Gary Stokan, good mention. I think if he didn't have it, I think he could make a phone call and get it.
I'd be willing to bet that that Josh Pate's probably the closest. I'd be willing to bet he is 1 degree away because I'm almost certain that he's got
you think so?
Kirk Herbstreit's number.
Oh, Kirk?
If he's got Kirk's number, then he can get Lee's number.
Yeah,
right?
You would think, right?
So I'm just saying, I think he's outside of Gary Stokan, who's a literal CEO, right, of a multi-million-dollar charity.
Which he could get it.
He
real
could get
quick.
it. He could get it.
Like 1 phone call away.
But like among mere mortals, those of us who work for a living every day, get our hands dirty. That doesn't really apply to us. I'm overselling it, but I think Josh could probably get it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be a good question. So the question we asked was, should we freeze Lee Corso? Not like X him, not kill him
in honor
off.
of Lee Corso, because the coach doesn't deserve to fall off the leaderboard.
I will say this, man, and you know how I feel about Lee. The other day, it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was watching Joe Biden in a debate. It was just like, I love Lee Corso as much as anybody, but I think they kept him around too long.
I'm glad that they're doing it this way, though, because if they were trying to, like, string this thing out for a whole nother season, that would be cruel. Honestly, that would be cruel to Lee Corso. I mean, it'd be selfish because you love him and you want him to stick around as long as possible. But clearly, it slows down the show. It's just it's bad television when he's talking. And I hate to say it.
Lefty Tiger wants to know where he is on the graphic. I am looking. Oh, Lefty Tiger. Where are you, Lefty Tiger? I got bad news, Diesel. I don't see Lefty Tiger.
I don't think Lefty Tiger's on the board.
I don't see him on the board.
Are you sure that you've correctly picked an upset, Lefty Tiger?
By the way, I did have one Tolo. I don't know if this is Lefty Tiger or not. I did have one Tolo who sent in a text of a screenshot, so we're going to work on getting that fixed. I did send that to Diesel. So
yeah, it happens.
It happens. Dan B can't do it all, man. He can't do it all.
He's only like literally flying planes, getting people from place to place.
Yeah.
And it may not be Dan. It may be me. I could be the one who made the mistake.
Dan said, I'm going to leave Lee's score at 13.5. I like it. That's a good call.
I love it.
Does Lee Corso make it to the end of the year? I'm just kidding. That's bad. I shouldn't say that. I just shouldn't
I
say
mean,
that.
think about it this way. We all thought Ozzy was going to last a little bit longer than like 10 days after his farewell concert.
And by the way, good point there. Good point. If you do feel like you made a pick, send us a text and then send the screenshot. We'll figure out a way to get that done.
Do us a favor. You can't, since you cannot send you can't send text messages into our text line.
Yeah.
If you think we've made a mistake, email me, diesel@thefanupstate.com. Let's see here. Let's see.
What's your name?
Dan B says he picked Syracuse to upset. So there you go. You wouldn't get points for Syracuse because they lost the game. I don't know who Lefty Tiger took in week 0.
I think in week 0.
Yeah, let me see if I can go back and find Lefty Tiger's name on the week 0 list.
Okay, we'll look for it, Lefty. We promise we'll look for it. We promise. While we do that, let's go to the phone lines, 844.
He didn't pick in week 0.
Oh, that explains.
Lefty Tiger, if you know you got it wrong, what are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing here? 844-FANFONE. TA and Gaffney wants to chime in on the show. TA, what's up, man?
Hey, guys. Lee Corso.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys went there, so I have to go there with my thoughts and my feelings. It reminds me of Harry Carey. They hung on to Harry Carey for the Chicago Cubs for a whole year too long. There's a fly ball to right field, and Dave Martinez is out there, but Terry Johnson gets under it, and he catches it. Terry Johnson catches the ball for the third out of the inning, and it's Dave Martinez the whole time. So it's just, yes, if they would have drug it out, Lee Corso would have just flat out, don't know any other way to put it, but embarrassed himself as well as ESPN.
TA, there was also that time where he asked if the moon was made of blue cheese, would you eat it?
TA, who's better right now, Harry or Skip? Who'd you like better listening to?
I actually shook Harry Carey's hand when he was good, but we all know he owns the bar right. He owned the bar right across the stadium. It's still in his name, but it was no secret that Harry was drinking before the games. Come on, you can do that then. I don't think you can do that now. Skip is very, very good, detailed, super pro, but in his prime, Harry just brought something that extra it that you just can't. So he had it. That's why he was there so long.
TA,
like my man in Los Angeles. He just retired last year. But
TA, have you ever watched the TV show Brockmire?
Vin Scully, by the way.
Vin Scully. You're thinking of Vin Scully.
Yeah, Vin Scully. Now he went out on top. But anyway, no, I have not.
You would love Brockmire. It's a movie about baseball play-by-play, and it stars Hank Azaria. You may not know who Hank Azaria is by name, but you know his voice because he was the voice of Moe on The Simpsons. And this show, I think it ran for 3 seasons. Really only need to watch the first season because after that it kind of fell off. But it's about a guy that does play-by-play for the Kansas City Royals and is a hardcore drinker, gets hammered in the booth, and finds out that his wife is sleeping with the next door neighbor across the road. So he goes on a drunken tirade live over the air in a Kansas City Royals game, and it gets busted back down to single A ball. And he has to try to work his way back out of the depths to the major leagues.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that could possibly happen also.
It's got amazing cameos. It's dark. It's filthy. If you're into that kind of humor, it's definitely worth watching. It's called Brockmire.
So we're not out of bounds talking about Lee Corso the way we are, according to UTA, right?
No, not at all, because he's a legend. I mean, he played at Florida State football and baseball. And he got all his picks right. It was amazing. He had an amazing day.
Yeah.
It's just that, I mean, when you get to a certain age and Kurt Street right beside you has to translate your words to the public and finish some of your sentences, yes, it's too late. I mean, your time has gone by. And I think he's 90, 91. He's up there in age, really up there in age. And he done fantastic. He made college game day. He made it with the picks, the hat, the pencil. I mean, he made it. But
yeah, TA, I will say one thing real quick, if you don't mind me cutting you off. I will say that the one cool thing I did see, and I'm glad you brought this up because I forgot to mention it earlier today on the show, but I will say, to your point about Lee Corso's age, I don't know if you saw this, Diesel. I don't know if you saw this either, but I saw somebody, it might have been on Facebook or TikTok over the weekend, talk about like using Lee Corso's life as an illustration for somebody out there. And it was a really inspiring thing because what they basically said, long story short, was, hey, you may be in your 40s, you may be in your 50s and feel like, you haven't accomplished what you want to accomplish. But think about it like this. Lee Corso was a guy who by the time he got done playing and coaching football, he was probably what, TA, 55, 60 years old, something like
50,
that.
55, 60.
And to
they
think
said he was on the air for 35 years.
Right.
He was 55.
So to think about that, to think that he's 55 years old, and in that moment, little did he know that the best life was yet to be lived in front of him. I mean, it's just a cool story. It really is.
It gives all of us hope to think that, don't give up and just keep pushing. And there's better things ahead. Keep your health in mind, because he looks like he did the day he walked on the show. I mean, really, he does. Got a beautiful smile. I mean, he's got a warm, fuzzy character. It's just, my grandfather passed away at 91. He had a stroke, but he was in great health. But he couldn't do college game day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a time when you got to say, all right. And last year, to me, should have been the farewell tour.
TA, to your point about Lee being great at his headgear picks, he was 66% for his career in headgear picks, 287,
Pretty good,
and 144. The guy could have built casinos in Las Vegas with that level of accuracy. And Dan B, who is messaging in on the stream, says, where were you last week? You didn't make an upset pick and you lost 2 points, which puts you in 64th place with 1 point on the list. TA, just don't forget this week.
Okay, well, listen to this. Guess who, and you may already know, who did Lee Corso, who did he not bet, but who did he pick against the most? What coach did he pick against the most on college game day?
You know the answer, TA?
Yes, I do. 100%.
I don't know.
Oh, man, I'm trying to venture a guess.
I'm going to guess, just throw it out there, Nick Saban.
Maybe Harbaugh?
Nick Saban.
Wow.
18 times.
The only reason I guessed that was because Nick Saban's tenure was so long. The math there.
That was good.
Thanks,
was
TA.
good. Great radio, guys. Great
Appreciate
stuff.
you, man.
Appreciate you, TA.
That's good stuff.
By the way, just got an answer back. Josh Pate does not.
I told you.
Lee Corso's number.
I told you.
I thought that guy's up there, man. In the
but he's
ranks.
not Lee Corso.
Nobody is. Nobody's Lee Corso.
Lee Corso's up here. Curb Street and those guys are up here. No offense to Josh Pate. We love Josh Pate, but that's a fun question. Wonder if we could find. How long would it take for us to find somebody that has Lee Corso's phone?
We had a couple of years ago, we had Kirk Herbstreit on this station.
Yeah.
Which means somebody we know has Kirk Herbstreit's contact information. So if we really wanted to, we might be able to get
It's just a fun game to think
Yeah.
about. People tell you
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's the whole game.
And I do believe this to be true. People tell you you're only 3 to 4 people away from knowing someone who knows the president, right? Think about that. You may think there's no way, but I've heard that. I really do believe that. I mean, you just never know. You never know.
They say it all the time when you look back at your family tree. Like it's wild to think who is actually in your family tree. When we come back, Cole, let's jump back into our conversation from earlier in the show. We're going to replay. We're going to replay Grayson. We'll do that. We'll replay Grayson Mann of TigerNet talking about Clemson's disappointing loss to LSU.
Time to talk a little Clemson Tigers. We spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking South Carolina, being told we were wrong. Some people agree with us, but nonetheless, we appreciate you listening or watching the show, even if you do get me worked up in the first 10 minutes of the program. Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com, one of the absolute best, joins us right now on the Fan Upstate to talk about the Clemson Tigers and the big game on Saturday night against LSU. Obviously, we all know how that game went down. Clemson falls, 1 touchdown score. Grayson, let's start. Before we get into the details of the game, I want to start with the most recent thing that happened today, Dabo Swinney's press conference. Again, this is my opinion. I'm not, coming at you or anybody else, but the holier than thou, don't criticize my program, Dabo Swinney press conference that we heard today. I think it's a load of crap. I know that Dabo Swinney believes that we all just create narratives and all the things that we say out there are all made up 100% of the time. It's never factual. 0-4 in the last 4 against the SEC. Y'all can create all the narratives y'all want. Am I the only person that feels this way?
I think it depends on who you ask. It's one of those things where we got the same sort of tirade's probably not the best word, but the same sort of deal last year after the Georgia matchup. And I think Swinney will have his comments. He'll have his way he perceives things. He and Brian Kelly exchanged responses per se, where Swinney kind of started and Kelly finished it. With the grading system that he had for LSU today, I loved it. I like it when he gets up there and he gets a little defensive, and I think Clemson's always good for it when their backs are against the wall a little bit. So I think if you're a fan, you see a little bit extra oomph from Swinney today. I think you should probably be excited about it. Maybe if it's BS, maybe it's not. From my standpoint, when he gets fired up, it's usually good for entertainment.
Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com. We knew that rushing the ball was going to be a problem coming into the season, not having a real running back, moving a wide receiver over. Look, only 31 net rushing yards in a game, and your leading rusher when it comes to carries, at least. I don't know if the yardage, no, that was led by Adam Randall. But when your quarterback has the most number of runs on your team, that's not good. That's the textbook definition of one-dimensional. So talk about the decision-making in going so pass-heavy in this game and essentially abandoning the run.
I think abandon is the right word to use when you talk about Clemson's run game on Saturday night. I believe last time a running back touched the football when it came to a run at all was the first play of the second half was the last time we saw it, especially from Adam Randall. And I think when you look at it, got a chance to watch the game yesterday, and it felt like for at least the offense, you don't realize it in the moment, but they were really one-dimensional. It's sort of the thing that we've been harping on all offseason was that Clemson's run game, with the way Phil Maffa kind of ended the season last year, the busted shoulder, Clemson was kind of forced to go one-dimensional just because they didn't really trust the guys behind him. Ezumumbe wasn't ready yet. Keith Adams Jr. isn't really your typical 3-down back. And Jay Haynes was still kind of emerging behind the scenes before he got hurt. And so for this year, you kind of looked at it as, okay, running the football, there should be more of a balance there. And against LSU, I know it wasn't working early, and we can have a conversation about how Clemson's offensive line played against LSU. But I think still, you got to find a way to keep the defense honest. At one point, LSU was rushing 7 and really trusting those defensive backs to play on an island. And it really felt like they had Clemson's number offensively in the second half. I think if you're a Clemson fan, the play calling is from Garrett Riley in these big games. I think it's fair to question it. It's been pretty inconsistent the last 3 years where it feels like the playbook shrinks a little bit. And in that case, where you have a running back in Adam Randall, where in a situation, or at least an offseason, that's been pretty positive on that front, where heard great things about him in scrimmages, great things from coaches talking to us, and don't really see that materialize at all on the field. It only results in 5 plays, and one of those was a 1-yard touchdown where get a little juice in the building. I feel like you need to run the football a lot more if you're going to be successful, and that only serves to not really benefit your quarterback that well, especially when he's prone to being flustered in these situations.
Grayson, at what point Saturday night did you kind of feel like, okay, in order for Clemson to win this game, offense, it's a struggle. As we talked about, they couldn't run the football. The passing game wasn't dynamic by any means. At what point did you feel like it's not going good. If something somehow, some way is going to turn, maybe it's the defense that has to go make a play, get a turnover, and go score. Did that come pretty early for you, or did you kind of have hope even to that very last drive?
I felt like it was going to be a rock fight even before the game started. And I felt like Ohio State and Texas was a great confirmation of that. Week 1 recently with college football has been really sloppy, especially in these big-time matchups where you don't really see a lot being thrown out on the table. It's very safe. It's very vanilla. Maybe that's a product of they're not hitting as much during camp. The preseason, there's not really much to work with there. So you're kind of still learning as you go week 1. And so for this Clemson team, it kind of validated that, yeah, I thought 24-20 was a pretty fair score and even was lesser than that on Saturday. So I think at halftime, I felt like Clemson was in a really good spot, even with the offensive struggles. You created turnovers. I thought Tom Allen's defense, for the most part, I'd give them a very fair grade on that front. Just offensively, you couldn't get anything. It felt like at halftime, and I talked to plenty of people just in that 15-minute break where we get things going, and it felt like, yeah, you have the true turnovers. You've held LSU's offense in check for the most part. It felt like in that moment in the second half, that opening drive where they missed the field goal, that's where I felt like things started to fall apart for them, and momentum obviously shifted with the Klubnik interception. But Clemson's been a team that's been chasing moments like that where they need to come out on that front. It felt like the Duke inverse of the Duke game where LSU was driving down the field, just couldn't. They kept coughing up the football. And at the end of the day, Clemson had a lot of opportunities out there, and they couldn't cash them in.
Speaking of that interception, that may be the lone, really bad mistake that Cade Klubnik made over the course of this football game. There were opportunities, and if we're talking about Cade from 2024, even 2023, some of those balls that he was able to get out of bounds would have been really bad sacks or maybe possibly worse. So in that front, if you're a Clemson fan, you got to be happy that his decision-making has improved in some of those situations. Would you attribute that to maturity? What was the emphasis on that to try to eliminate as many of those ugly sack losses?
I think you just got to live for another down. And for a third-year senior quarterback, when you have a rusher coming at you right and it sort of speeds up your process, at that point, you either try to escape to make another play or you live to fight another down and you just take the hit. It felt like that was a 2023 Klubnik decision where that ball is not going where it's supposed to be. It floats up, and it's a really easy interception for the defensive back. So for the most part, I think Klubnik, in terms of decision-making, is fine. I just feel like sometimes he maybe scrambled out a little too early, wasn't seeing some of the open looks, because there are points where Riley does design some of these open routes where you attack that blitzing side and you have maybe Tyler Brown or Wesco, Moore, Williams open on some of these quick hitches. Just Klubnik's not finding them. I think flustered's the right word for Saturday night. Just felt off from the jump. A couple missed throws here and there, but I think overall you could have had a lot worse from a couple throws. LSU was in their face the entire night. The offensive line really struggled to hold up in protection, something that didn't necessarily shock me, but I thought from LSU's standpoint, a lot of unknowns on that side of the ball. So maybe that's just because of the transfer portal nature of it. You just don't know how it's going to fit. But, man, they came out there, and it was pretty evident early that Clemson was going to have to figure out a way to get out ahead of this. And I didn't really feel like they took advantage of some of those quicker throws that LSU was making.
Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. So where are you, or let me ask you this. Let me rephrase that, Grayson. In your mind, where should Clemson fans be? Because I was walking out of the game Saturday night. There were a lot of Clemson fans who were really, really disappointed. You hear things like today when you heard Dabo's presser, right? He brings up all of these statistics from his laundry list that he keeps where he brings up all of these records and wins and doesn't like the narratives against the program. Where do you think fans should be? Should they be frustrated 0-4 in the last 4 against the SEC? Or should they truly listen to Dabo and just pretend like it's no big deal? 0-4 against the SEC is irrelevant. Season openers irrelevant. Where do you think Clemson fans should be?
I think there's a balance that you can have. I think it's fair to be frustrated in these openers because you're looking for that moment. For Clemson all offseason, every time we've been on the show, we've circled LSU as that game where Clemson can make proof of progress. And with Tom Allen, all the moves you make, there's your opportunity against an LSU team. You're up 10-3. heading into the half and you don't get it done, I'd be frustrated too if you were a Clemson fan sitting there for those 4 hours. And that's the result you get offensively, especially because that's the group with the most returners, a lot less question marks on that side of the ball. Garrett Riley, Klubnik, year 3. Feels like in those bigger moments. I look at Josh Hoover last night. I know UNC's a talent deficit, but that looked like how a third-year quarterback in an offense should look. Calm, cool, collected, making big throws. I know it's not fair to compare the UNC and LSU defenses. Definitely not. But there is a level of maturity that comes with that position for sure. But I also think Clemson's going to be fine. On the ACC talent level, I do think Clemson's going to be better than all, if not a good majority of the teams they face the rest of the way, and that includes South Carolina from a talent standpoint. I think LSU is probably right there if we're doing maybe comparisons, and LSU is going to prove to be a really good football team this year, if not a great one. And I think Clemson's probably sitting right below that. And that Saturday answer was, is Clemson great, or are they just maybe marginally better? I do think the defense is good. I think the defense has a chance to be something special with Tom Allen. There were a lot of positives on that side of the ball. Ronan Hannafin's going to be a stud. But offensively, still the same question marks in these big games that just kind of shrink and don't really rise to the occasion. And if that's who Clemson is, and they win a playoff game, and if you're a Clemson fan and you're okay with that, that's great. But if you're maybe expecting them to rise up and win a rock fight with some of these greater teams, I still don't think we have the answer to that, and maybe we won't find out for a long time.
Yeah, Grayson, you stole my thunder there. I was just about to ask you a question that you answered. It was a statement that one of our colleagues from SEC Unfiltered made about Clemson. He was talking about Texas having a problem with big games. People have been saying it about Penn State for a while. They said it about Ohio State before Ryan Day finally won his national championship. It's being said about Texas. Do you think that Clemson has a problem in big games? How can you wrap your mind around what that actually means? Is it an over exaggeration or over amount of trust in the talent that you have?
I think it's a fair trend. I mean, you look at the last few seasons. I look at 2022, you have a home game in South Carolina, and with the way things shook up, you might have made the playoffs with DJ Uyunglele as your quarterback, but you fall 33-30 to Spencer Rattler. I look at 2024, Georgia, big opener. You get kind of your teeth kicked in, and that Georgia team went on to go to the quarterfinal of the college football playoff, wins the SEC. The home against South Carolina, it's a big top 15 matchup. Winner probably, in my mind, should have been a home playoff. South Carolina should have made the playoff, in my mind, still from last year. And Clemson, they win that game, they're definitely in the playoffs and needed a backdoor cut from Syracuse to make it to the postseason. Now, to give them credit, they did win against SMU, but by the skin of their teeth in a fourth quarter collapse. And then Texas, obviously, you're kind of chasing that in them and Jadon Blue in the fourth quarter. So I do think there's a lot of examples where Clemson's coming up short, but still 2 ACC championships. They've made the playoffs last year, so that still are positive points. But I think this is a fan base that's searching for more, and they're searching for a team that can consistently compete for championships again. Is that this team? It could be. But as of right now, I don't think we have any evidence that would show me otherwise than maybe they're marginally better, at least defensively, on the other side of the ball. I do think they are. I think that's fair. Yeah. Tom Allen is going to have this team where it should be defensively, and I think maybe that creates more wins this year and maybe less hiccups, and that will put Clemson in a much better spot. But when we get to, let's just put hypothetically out here, guys, and sorry for the long ramble.
No, you're good.
But let's say Clemson wins the ACC and they go 11-1, or they find redemption against South Carolina. I think that mulligan depends on how good South Carolina is by the end of the season. Then maybe we have a different conversation. But let's just say they're 10-2 and they win the ACC. How good truly is Clemson compared to the 12-team field? Because they'll get in. They'll have a home playoff game, or maybe they'll be on the road most likely in that first round. But I do think there'll be a lot of questions about Clemson, and they're good, but are they great?
It's a good way to put it. I want to ask you this, my last question for you. Based on what you saw, I agree with you on defense, by the way. I do think the defense is better in 2025. Let's fast forward to the playoff. Clemson gets a draw against an SEC team. Are your feelings going to be different? Are Clemson fans' feelings going to be different after, let's be honest, they've probably won 10 games between now and then, right? Or are we going to remember who Clemson truly is? And in my mind, this is just my opinion here. Or do you think the fan base will fall back into the trap of, hey, look, we've won 10 games. We're still going to have a chance against this SEC team here?
It'll be hard not to, especially it depends on how these 10 games go. Now, Cole, they could be 10-1 heading into that game against South Carolina. And while I don't think South Carolina is going to be as good as they were last year, I think Lenore Sellers gives them a chance in every game. And that was the reason that South Carolina won in Clemson was 16. And he'll give you a chance in every single game. So I think it just depends. 2024 is kind of the blueprint for this, where Clemson does have an opportunity to kind of roll through the rest of their schedule to about, I would say, I think Georgia Tech, if they can get past that, then there's a real opportunity for them to stack wins until November. And then we're really left with a question of, man, Clemson looks good, but let's sort of look at the level of talent on the field. If they're beating up Syracuse, that has regressed roster-wise, if they're beating North Carolina that got their teeth kicked in last night, good Lord.
Yeah.
That looked pretty bad last night. So there's going to be I think it's going to be a lot of hanging questions. I think Clemson's going to be a good football team this year. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't know. We'll see.
Grayson, did you make it to the point where Kirk put his dog on the air? Like, did you watch that far into the game, or did you call it quits before that?
I got to I think I got to 41-7 and thought, okay, I think my time's probably better spent by resting my head on a pillow. There's no magical comeback coming. I saw Max Johnson throw the touchdown pass and was thinking that's a pretty great moment for him, who had there were conversations that he might have his leg amputated on the broad. Scary, but good for him. But man, Bill Belichick, I really wish they had like a telecast. You know, in the national championship, they have those different broadcasts. Sure. It's like the Sky Cast or the Pat McAfee cast. I wish they had a North Carolina Board of Trustees cast just to see what the heck they were thinking.
I like it.
Yeah, this is coming from a Patriots fan, guys. This is the Belichick defender over here.
On the night when they brought out all the UNC celebrities, they were all there. And then I don't know if any of them made it to the end of the game.
Yeah, Michael Jordan might have called it quits and hit up a casino or something in North Carolina afterwards. I don't know.
Grayson, you're the best. As
Thanks,
always,
Grayson.
we appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Final segment of the show, and we appreciate each of you for sticking with us, turning it on and leaving it on. But Diesel, I want to get your take and the Tolo's take in this final segment on a piece of audio from Dave Portnoy. Jerry Jones gets a lot of criticism, right? And rightfully so most of the time. What are your thoughts on this audio from over the weekend when it comes to how Jerry Jones runs the Dallas Cowboys? Here's what Dave had to say.
Came out with so much more respect for Jerry Jones. I've always been a Jerry Jones guy, and I would run my team exactly how Jerry Jones runs the team. I don't care if you think you're smarter than me. It's my team.
Okay.
I bought the team. It's my money. I'm going to call the plays. And all I ask for my owner is that he cares truly about winning as much as I do. And there's no way he doesn't. They have him in the video. I forget what game they're losing. I think it may have been the Packers when they lost the playoff game to the Packers. And he's tearing like a napkin. You can see his insides being eaten. That's all I want from an owner. Now, has he been a good GM? Has he made mistakes? Does he want the passing? Absolutely. All those things are true. But it's his team. He put the money up. He risked the life. He runs it. His whole life is the Cowboys. He's not one of these distant owners. If I was a Cowboy fan, I can take the losing because I know that guy cares as much as I do.
Wow. Bold take there from Dave Portnoy. So they were discussing, Diesel, to put it into context, they were discussing the documentary series on Netflix about the Dallas Cowboys, which, by the way, if you have not seen yet, Cowboys fan or not, it's unbelievable. It's called America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys. And if you haven't seen that yet, I would encourage you to do so on Netflix. It's one of the better sports documentaries, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Cowboys fan.
So an egomaniac says, hey, I like the way that egomaniac runs his business.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. But you know what? Those people at the very top, the very tippy top, the Jerry Jones, the Dave Portnoys of the world, they're wired that way. And that's why they are successful.
You don't get to where you are by allowing other people to question and second guess you, and then you change your opinion to try to suit them.
And we make fun of them, but they're the ones that are billionaires, and we're down here laughing and making fun of them, but you have to be wired that way. So
this guy can't even get into Ohio Stadium. Why are we listening to him?
No, can't even get it. Did you see, by the way, him dressed up? Did you see what he did?
Yeah.
With the mustache. That was hilarious. God, that was so funny.
It also helps that when you're a billionaire, I assume he's a billionaire, multi-billionaire,
I think so.
You could just do goofy things like that. Like people are gonna like, it's just Portnoy. He's just a goofing off, man. But if you or I did it,
we'd be in jail.
We'd be in jail right now.
It's funny, man.
Tolo's back to it tomorrow. South Carolina and Clemson. Neither one of them plays a real tough opponent this weekend. So what might we hope to see out of those two teams in their week 2 matchups? We'll talk about that tomorrow on the Fan Upstate.